You are now live on Channel 8 and YouTube.
Thank you, TCTV. It is now 6:30 p.m. Good evening, everyone. I'm Chairman Mike Curry, and I call this Select Board Business Meeting to order on this 10th day of July, 2024. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Screening announcement, I'd like to remind everyone that today's meeting is being broadcast live on TCTV, Cable Station 8, and our YouTube web platform. For those who wish to revisit any part of our proceedings, the recording will also be available on our YouTube channel. Your subscription to TCTV would also be greatly appreciated. Additionally, if any audience members are recording this meeting or plan to do so, please notify us prior to starting. Welcome everyone tonight. We do have a quorum. Everyone is here. Good to see you all. Good to be back in the USA. For our agenda tonight, along with other public documents, it is available at templetonma.gov, the official website for town information. Oh, and thank you for running the meeting.
Oh,
I forgot to say that.
no, my pleasure.
Here, so at the website here, you can also subscribe to alerts for all public meetings and our town administrator's weekly report. For immediate updates, including emergency notifications, please enroll in Code Red, the Code Red alert system through our website. It's right on the front page on the bottom, or by calling 866-939-0911. This service is vital for staying informed on important and emergency matters. As far as agenda management, as chair, I maintain the discretion to modify tonight's agenda as needed to manage time effectively, to utilize personnel resources efficiently, and to ensure public awareness. I reserve the right to rearrange agenda items to best accommodate our proceedings and honor our guests. This is your first time attending a select board meeting. Welcome. Although I think you've been here before.
Not here. I've
Okay,
been
on Zoom. Okay. Welcome. We are committed to serving our community with patience, fairness, and efficiency. We also ask the same courtesy and engagement from all participants tonight. So let's have a productive and respectful meeting. We've got 13 items on. We almost got to the end of the alphabet on this one. But it looks like we've got a lot of good things on the agenda tonight. All right, our first order of business is the approval of prior meeting minutes. So in your packet this evening, you've got June 12th. I think those needed to go back for some revisions. So you'll notice in bold, you've got some revisions there. And at your leisure, anyone on the board, I'd entertain a motion to admit these minutes to the record.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just noticed a spelling error on what I updated on the presentation for the audit. It's
Okay.
just one of the, on Mr. Gargano's name, 5 lines from the bottom. It's just spelled wrong. Just. I don't know what.
Gargano.
It's on page 3.
Okay. So the motion would be for amended.
Just this one spelling error. Gargano.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes of Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 as amended.
Okay, I have a motion. Would someone like to second it?
Second.
All right, I have a second. Any further discussion on these meeting minutes?
If we-
Meeting minutes.
If you really want to be nitpicky on the action item E, the chair has discussed with town council and produced a respond. It should be response to be sent to Richard within the appropriate time frame. Actually. I got it.
So noted.
And I also, I'm gonna throw, there's a misspelling under 6B, annual appointments. The second time that council is stated under Bennett brought up the bylaw issue regarding council on aging. The second use of council is incorrect. It's on the first page.
Okay,
On the first
got
page.
that.
Right.
Other than that, great.
COU and CIL is correct. SCOU and SEL is not.
Got it.
Yeah.
So noted. Those are three corrections.
Other than that,
The motion in the second stands because of that part of the amendment.
Right.
Any other catches? All right, hearing none, on the motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 12th, 2024 as amended, how do you vote? Tim? No. Jeff? No. Matt?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's a 3-2 vote. And it does carry, meeting minutes are added. All right, no executive, we are to citizen input. Is there any citizen input this evening? All right, hearing none, we're gonna go on to administrator comments. Mr. Lamontagne, good evening.
I'll be brief. You have a long agenda this evening. I just want to recognize our administrative assistant, Jackie Nally, who served working with us for over a year and a half. Her last day of work will be tomorrow, so I want to thank her for her service to the town of Templeton. So thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jackie.
Jackie.
Good luck and
Mhm.
Godspeed.
Well said.
That's it, Mr. TA.
That is it.
All right. Let's dive into new business. Looks like we don't have any introductions of new employees, nor do we have any appointments. So we're gonna jump right into our fourth quarter FY 24 reports with public safety. Chief, if you'd like to go first, it looks like you're first in our packet anyway. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your hot 4th of July weekend.
Not hard enough.
All right. Fourth quarter. Well, it has come to an end. We encountered some issues in the fourth quarter, but nothing we couldn't handle. Looking forward to moving forward to the next fiscal year and what we can accomplish moving forward. Station HVAC project is finally complete. And now as I have it written here, over the weekend with the humidity, severe humidity, we encountered a humidity issue at the station. Had to have Guardian come back out, troubleshoot the system. And I don't understand HVAC systems, but apparently you have to have the boiler working at certain times because the boiler actually helps cool the station and dehumidify the station. So there was an issue with that. They troubleshooted it and it's been working perfectly since Monday. We have the bird wire netting up installed underneath the Sally port, which has eliminated the issue with the bird's nests and the droppings. Next time you're at the station, make sure to check out the bench out front near the flagpole. It is engraved with the following: in memory of Norman F. Bliss, end of watch 7-8. That's a typo there, the 7, it's actually 8/74. Officer Bliss was killed in the line of duty on that date. Thankfully, to this date, he's the only Templeton officer to be killed in the line of duty. The cruiser fleet. I know, this is a broken record. And I just got an update yesterday. The cruiser that was voted in November is slated to go into the shop in second week of August to start getting outfitted. So cross your fingers, it's here in September. The cruiser that was approved at the Maytown meeting is being built. It's not built, it's not on a lot. Is being built in August and slated to get to the dealership in September. So we might have both cars in September. The first one's almost 16 months overdue.
Wow.
So let's see. Department news. So August 1st of this year, I will be 10 years tenure as chief here. And it's
Nice.
getting pretty frustrating fielding calls from residents concerning complaints about services and trying to explain why we can't provide the services they are requesting. Some of these requests are unrealistic. I mean, I literally have somebody that calls me at least once a month that expects a cruiser to be on his road in front of his house 24/7, 365 days a year. And when I explain to him that there's almost 9,000 residents, 7,800 miles of road. There's X amount of, other calls. There's only 2 guys on. Doesn't matter. He wants the car there. Some of them though are just basic services that we don't have the manpower to support. When I look at communities like Ashburnham and Barry and Westminster that have more officers on staff in a smaller population and fewer calls for service, I shake my head. The town of Templeton has witnessed a building growth that's put a strain on the public services in the schools, which needs to be addressed so that this town can provide the basic services that it deserves. I'm getting to the point where any complaint that I get is going to be forwarded to the selectman's office because I'm getting pretty sick and tired of having to answer them. I've been understaffed for the department since I took over. Enough said. Any questions?
I got a question on the one cruiser,
Yes.
the one, my question to you was gonna be, the 24. The cruiser approved in 24. I noticed that 42,000 had been spent out of the 68, so if it's, I'm assuming the 26 left over is to outfit the cruiser.
Mr. Bennett, I would suspect that that's the cost of the car and we're still waiting the outfit and that's the rest of the balance.
So, like I said, the that leftover 26,000, is that gonna
I-
pay for the outfit?
I would suspect so.
Well, I'm just.
Yeah.
I thought.
I mean, without my paperwork right here to verify that, that would be my best guess.
Cause there's, like I said, there's 2 cruises showing up, one that was approved for 2025. And that, nothing's spent out of that one.
Yeah.
But the one out of 2024. I just looked at, we asked for 68, and I remember asking you when the general
Mhm.
cost for a cruiser
Yes.
outfitted was about
Yeah.
67 grand or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if that.
So that most likely is the Tahoe that's sitting on a lot at Adamson, waiting to be outfitted.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that, speaking to the budget stuff, that was a, monumental piece of awareness at the end of this last budget. And we're working on a plan going forward, but I understand your frustration.
Thank you.
I do too. And
Sure,
we
go ahead.
keep building. And my question is, do you ever have to refuse? It says assist another agency. I was wondering if that was in town. And then do you ever have to refuse that? It says.
Yeah,
assist-
other agencies, yes. Sometimes we just don't have the manpower. Like, I can tell you there were 3 shifts just last week that there was only running 1 officer.
Mhm. I was aware of that for some reason.
Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
On the cruise, speaking of the cruises.
Yes.
How many of the old ones, what's like the oldest cruiser that you
So-
have left? Cause I remember you had like
Yep,
9. but
I'm
there were a
glad you
bunch
bring
of
that up.
old-
27, which is technically the oldest car we have right now. That just went into the shop. It's got ignition issues. We didn't want to have to repair it. But since these cars are so backed up, I cannot put some money into the car. Otherwise, we wouldn't have repaired it. That was the one that was in the minor accident. It got hit over here in the Cumberland Farms parking lot. So yes, we're gonna have to put some more money into it. When those 2 cars come in, Cruiser 27 and A15, the detective's car will both be decommissioned. And A15's the Taurus. That's got 123,000 miles on it now at least. And like I said, 27, the oldest car after 27 will be the 2018 SUV.
I was just curious, cause, I know you wanted to get cycling, and I think it's a good idea, cause you get rid of the old, you don't be putting
I'm
any
trying.
maintenance on. Right.
I'm trying,
I
Mr.
get that.
Bennett.
And, to keep that going, this board, it's our responsibility, another issue, but we gotta get a regular funding source for those cruisers, so they can be regularly recycled, and we have a dependable set aside funding source to do it because it makes so much sense. As long as we don't transfer old stuff to another department, we get rid of it. So it's off the maintenance budget and it's gone. Because otherwise you just increase, you don't really accomplish much.
True, to an extent. I could see that if there's some vehicle that, let's say, at the end of its life, if we can keep turning them over, and I think Mr. Sozik will echo this, that our cruiser maintenance budget has decreased the past 2 years since we've started this process. You gotta look at, if we have, let's take the F-150, for example. Let's say that gets to its time where it's gonna be cycled out, but that truck only has 95,000 miles on it, and it's gonna go to the fire department for inspections. That wouldn't be a bad idea, because you're not utilizing that vehicle the same as a police car. So 95,000 miles just to do inspections, it might, that wouldn't be bad.
My thought is though, when we buy vehicles, if we would buy extended warranties with them and
Agreed.
cycle them on a regular basis, you would get more for them. You could either auction them out straight out or trade them in, but they would have more value to them and the town could get more in return for them to
Agreed.
help offset the cost of,
A new-
we gotta figure ways to
we-
maximize our budgets so we can do some of the things that you're talking about and not for the first time.
Yes.
So whoever's just, watching, tell you, but it's been a subject for a number of years.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Right.
That was my thoughts too. If we get into that position, then that might free up money to put into a new police officer.
I don't think it would ever reach that status. I don't think it would reach that plateau to be able to do that.
That would have to come up with another avenue.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Is that it for Chief Bennett? I did have one additional thing. I'm not on Facebook, but I was sent a screenshot about Sergeant Raymond Rice Jr.
Yes.
It was an upset post that no one was there otherwise. I think communication, the reason why I bring him up is that I want to be able to offer the condolences to the family and to commemorate his passing. So I do that, but in the future, if we hear stuff, if we do some information sharing, I would have been happy to go and.
I can address that, Mr. Curry.
Sure.
The police department was never informed
Oh, geez.
Right.
of when we had heard that he had passed.
Yes.
We were never informed of any of his funeral,
I
calling
feel the
hours,
same way,
nothing.
but I just like to be able to offer the condolences, and 30 years is a long time. He's interred in the veteran cemetery, so to the Rice family and to the rest of the town and Phillipson, if he worked there as well, we offer our condolences and thank you, thanks for his service.
Yes.
I understand he passed in Florida, correct? and
Yes.
Was up here, and I found out about it like almost after the fact. Somebody just called me and said, hey, you remember
Mhm.
this thing is, today or something. I couldn't get there. I was
I came-
literally up the street, but
I came back from the 4th of July holiday and was told on Monday
Right.
some people were upset that nobody represented the police department. I was like, when were his services? Nobody even contacted us to ask for anything.
it's just one of those things that
I think everybody's sentiment is that, that we would have participated, and I know that, but I just, wanted to be able to publicly say, we know, and we offer our condolences, and we're sincerely grateful for his service to the nation and to Templeton.
Thank you. And I'm sure his family is.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night, all.
You too. Good night, Chief. Thank you. Next is fire.
Mr. Chairman, I've been asked to,
I thought you might.
been asked to read in 2 reports tonight.
Okay, good to
One
see
for
you,
the
Mike.
fire chief and one for Rich Curtis.
Okay,
They're both out of town, unfortunately.
Can you, I'm sorry, please. state
Yeah,
your name.
my name's Mike Dixon, Deputy Emergency Management Director.
Thank you.
The fire chief's report is pretty brief. I assume you must have copies of it in front of you. It's dated 7/3/24. fourth quarter report. Fourth quarter had a total of 428 emergency calls and 63 residential and commercial inspections. And then he has a complete breakdown of all of the calls. Would you like me to read that into the record or?
We've got it in front of us.
Okay.
If there are any questions from the board.
Right.
That either Mike might have some insight or we can carry those to the fire
I was gonna
department.
offer to
Yeah.
take any questions down and I could
Absolutely,
pass
that's a
them
great
on, or
idea.
maybe Adam can pass them on.
Thank you. Any observations or questions that we would like to relay to the fire department? Okay. Hearing none, thank you for that. And we can move on to emergency management.
Okay.
If the board would like.
Rich is a bit more verbose than the chief. So fourth quarter report, Templeton Emergency Management. During this quarter, he submitted an application for the 24 CCP grant. Was $5,000. We had put in for money to be used during rehab at fire scenes. We were looking for electronic pulse meters and to replace the cuffs that we use. We know enough to know that we don't use them often enough to be good at doing blood pressure. And the results we would get, you probably wouldn't want to use for decision making. So we were opting to go with some high-end electrical equipment that would do that job for us and probably in a better fashion. And well, I guess the state thought that we were stepping a little bit outside of the CERT mandate. Because in most towns, CERT does not work with rehab at fire scenes. His next bullet was that he worked with Graceland Curry on a grant to get studies done on Depot Pond Dam. That made a little bit of headway, but the application was not sent in due to the filing cost of $7,000. There was an earthquake reported on 4/5/24 10:30 a.m. Oh, it didn't say a.m. or p.m. It was felt in Templeton. Richard received the call from dispatch. He talked with MEMA and they verified there was an earthquake in its location.
Felt it at Hanscom.
Yes. Attended a meeting concerning floodplain mapping and our bylaws. Attended a hazard mitigation plan update meeting on 5/1/24. So MRPC is moving ahead with the floodplain mapping project. And we're past the data gathering stages now and they're actually putting the report together. Ordered and received the 2024 ERGs. He likes acronyms, Emergency Response Guidebook. It's for chemicals that are being hauled by train, truck, that type of thing. So the placard meanings on the outside of vehicles. He passed those on to police, fire, DPW, Board of Health. There was a Skywarn course done at the senior center, which I actually attended. It was very good. The trainer was a Bryce Williams from NOAA. I had done it previously and it tells you, what reading the sky and different parts of the weather, what you can expect when and what to do. So it was very well attended. I think there were 30 people there. Put out a town-wide code red for Carol Harris concerning the ATM and ATE.
Town meeting, town election.
Oh, town
Yep.
meeting.
Yep.
I did not know what that acronym was. Attended the RAPC meeting on 5/30/24 regarding the PD. Assisted Hubbardston's town administrator with their FEMA COVID reimbursement project. Hubbardston's EMD recently passed away. And they were left in the dark about what to do and how to proceed for filing for their COVID grants. So Rich went over and helped them figure that out. Attended several meetings and webinars and trainings during the quarter. Completed a shelter survey at NRMS and the senior center with representatives of the Red Cross. So the Red Cross comes out occasionally and they like to walk through our planned emergency shelters to make sure that we can do all the things that we need to do. We have the space to do what we have the knowledge that we need, that type of thing. And that probably will spur them on to come out and do some training with fire and CERT. The 23 EMPG reimbursement was sent in and reimbursement was received prior to the end of the fiscal year. The ID program was installed on the emergency management laptop. The software was with the town clerk with Carol. I believe the emergency management group had got that for the town at some point, but we weren't able to use it. So we have it again now and we can use it. And he sent in the HMP update project quarterly report to MEMA. At our CERT meeting the other night, he read some letters from representatives of MEMA, and they were amazed at the amount of cooperation that we received from all the departments in town, and the way we work with all the different groups, and they couldn't say enough.
Do
So,
they have an awards program?
I'm sorry?
Does MEMA have an awards program?
Yes, they do. Yeah,
Okay.
they do. And,
I think you guys would be eligible, or like, high on the list or
Yeah.
otherwise. So if you need any, one to nominate or anything like that, let us know. Let me know.
we can do that. Going on to the backside of the page is CERT activities. It's been busy. So there was a CERT rodeo, held at Holy Cross on April 27th. We had 20 people go down to that. And it was broken into trainings. There were 4 different trainings you could attend. You get to pick which ones you wanted to sit in on. So all of our group was very well represented down there. Most towns had no one or one person. So it was pretty cool to see. I was pretty excited. We set up an info table and displayed equipment at the NRHS Gansett Arise Alive program. That worked out pretty well. There were a lot of kids that passed through, touched all the equipment, asked questions. We were hoping to get some younger people signed up. We're aging. And we know it. So we're hoping to get some younger people. CERT was activated for a house fire on Patriots Road, up in Templeton Center on 5/17/24. CERT assisted police in Narragansett at the elementary school Memorial Day program, which you wouldn't believe it was probably worse than graduation. That every grandparent and uncle and mother and father all take separate cars and go there. It is a zoo. But at any rate, so that went without a hitch, and we were glad to help. Assisted police with traffic control for Memorial Day parade and participated in the parade. We had 2 units in the parade, and we shut down numerous roads along the parade route. And then we collapsed back onto Baldwinville Center for the activities at the memorial. Assisted police department Narragansett with parking and traffic control at graduation on 5/31. So in June alone, we did 5 different large scale events.
Wow.
CERT opened a cooling center on 6/19 and 6/20 due to high temperatures at the senior center. And CERT donated a new flatbed trailer to the police department for their ATV. The money for it came from COVID funds that we had been given. So we're trying to do what we can for the town. Rich has an addendum on the bottom, which I assume is of interest to the board. He keeps track of the usage of the signboards. The Board of Health used it for Garden of Wellness Fair, Treasurer and Tax Collector for 4th quarter taxes. The clerk used it twice, once for annual town meeting and town elections, and then Recreation used it once for swimming signups. And that's the extent of that report.
Any questions for Mike?
No questions, just a general comment.
Sure.
What do you guys do with your free time? When
And with volunteers, imagine if we got paid. No, it's, we like to do it.
And I forget what meeting we wind up going through it. I don't remember if it's in these reports or not, but but Rich does come back and give hours, like, yeah, he comes back. So, not only is it apparent in the report, but the logs are very, very well kept. So we wind up capturing that.
That's a requirement of MEMA.
Yeah.
They have an online website where you're supposed to log all your activity.
Okay.
It says you're supposed to keep track of times, dates, and number of man hours worked, equipment used, all that type of thing. And that all gets fed into the system. That's one of the ways that we're able to get the money for the after COVID from the federal government was because we had all our ducks in a row.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you for your reports this evening.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we're gonna move on to Department of Public Services, DPS. Good evening, Director Sozik.
Good evening, Board. Bob Sozik, Director of Public Services for Templeton. On my fourth quarter on my highway, I should have in front of you. The first item is probably one of the most highlighted items. The emergency repair needs to be done on Main Street Bridge due to a large hole in the bridge deck about 5 by 7. A little bigger than the one that was on Hamlet. So same as before, I reached out to MassDOT to see if it's repairable and what their thoughts were. And they got back to me and said, yes, I can go ahead and repair it under emergency. And we're gonna be doing that repair from the fair share funds, which was recently deposited to the town. I know Cheryl just got the thing, receipt Monday. So that's gonna cost the town, well, fair share money of 40,300. And that is scheduled to be done on the 22nd of July. The signboards will be going out tomorrow to pre-warn people of the closure for the day. And as we get closer, we'll be doing a code red as well.
And I saw in the email, working with the local businesses as well. I did.
Yes,
see
I
that.
already reached out to Civic Paper and Graves.
Thank you.
And then the April storm, we had cleanup and removal and several trees and branches. Got to handle and clean that up. The crew along with the building grounds sits on removing the old fencing around the existing tennis court over to Gilman. Been cleaning and repairing catch basins as needed. We've been having an ongoing issue with every report with the beavers. We got a couple of hot spots and we finally just got a hold of a beaver trapper last week. And he did make some success over on Royalston Road. So hopefully that helps. Continue with the road sweeping over the rail mower. Continue potholes. It's very hard to do. Again, I'm in the same predicament as last year. I'm short 2 guys.
Right.
And where we encourage the guys not to take vacation during the winter, they're taking it during the summer. So it makes it very difficult to get some of these bigger projects that I want to do. My main focus is getting ready and prepared for the road plan to start at the end of the month or early August. Like I told you before, I met with Jessica. We're gonna be laying out all the hay wattles. Those will start probably going out this week. We got a couple of cross pipes to replace. And then hopefully Massbrook will be not too far behind us. Status on the 2 F-750s from the ARPA fund that were ordered last December.
Mhm.
The chassis are scheduled to be built this month. Hopefully by early August, they'll go get to the outfitters. So it's in the works. And then we only had 1 driveway permit and 5 reimbursements. Like Chief Bennett said, it's being short of help and it's him being short a guy since 14, but I have 1 guy that's gonna be retiring. I don't know when. He's saying July, but I haven't received or Adam hasn't been notified of what day yet. And then the other guy finally had an agreement with the town, so that won't be able to, that probably be the first of next year before I can actually replace that person. But it's real difficult and we're doing what we can, keeping up with much as we can with what we got.
The discussion that I was talking with Chief Bennett about a moment ago includes him, Chief Dickey, and you. And I know that, the HR rep is also within that discussion, but we are trying to come up with a path to be able to get you some relief.
And as far as equipment, like Chief Bennett, he's in a better predicament than I am. Yeah, we have 2 trucks coming. But we're still gonna be shy a truck. So. I am literally sick over this. I literally dumped over 20 grand in a truck. To keep enough fleet. So everybody that our crew can use it for their routes. It to me, it is wasted money. But if I redline it, then I'm gonna have to find work for the other guy somehow or what, but. We minimum need of 5 good trucks and I would like a spare, and I plan on keeping one of them as a spare. I'm gonna be trading in. An old, our model, I'm sorry, not trade, probably go to auction. Our model 10-wheeler Mack and I believe it's a 14 RD Mack that came from Winchendon. It's a Monroe. It's hard to get parts for. Jeff knows all about getting parts for Monroes, but it's something's gotta happen instead of wasting good money
Maintenance, right?
and but so we'll keep thinking positive and one day at a time. Any questions on highway?
Any questions?
Yes. The Whitney Street culvert. What's the status on that?
Well, we're all clear to do the work. I need like 5 or 6 guys and I don't have that every day. I can't jump into something and be sorry I did and be in a dead end road, not be able to reopen it by the end of the day.
And besides asking for the status on it, I know the funding was requested last year,
Yeah, we
June
had,
28th, for a $20,000 dollar transfer from the reserve fund under an emergency. And here it is a year later. I don't know if we would be better off to be contracting this stuff out to vendors to get this stuff done. I know there's only 2 houses down there and a contractor, but.
well, I'm hoping to feel out when the guys are when they're taking vacations. And the contractor down there is also willing to assist us. And I might have to ask Gardner or Winchendon if they would assist us to get it done.
Also, on the May BVA report, it shows 2022 and 2024. Both items are town hall electrical panels. The 22 is $6,200 and the 24 is the $6,930, and they're showing nothing spent.
No, that I'm on the list. They're short-handed as well. It is scheduled to be done hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
Also, any information on the Royalston Road appraisal work that we have 65, 75, 79,000, 80,000 on the books.
Well, we're continually paying Fuss O'Neill for the work they continue to do, and we're working on trying to get to the 100%. And we don't want it, we can't do the title research too early because it'll be stagnant the times that it goes out to bid. But Adam might be able to add in on that.
If I may, Mr. Chair. So appraisal work is only good, I believe, for 6 months. In addition to that, it's listed for fiscal year 26-27, I believe, on the transportation improvement plan. So probably looking at in 2025, going out to bid to get the work done. We want to get it, but we want to make sure that we time it up where when it's ready to get work done, and appraisals don't go bad. That's the reason why
Project slipped.
project moved further out.
So, what my concern is, if we weren't gonna get that done in fiscal 25. We have a lot of money. I mean, we just asked for 65,000 last November. that's money sitting there that could be used for something else at a service for, we just have a lot of money on special articles and other places sitting there. Some of it for a couple of years or more. And it seems we ask the residents for money and then it sits and sits and sits. And then when they want to see if something, can be done, well, we don't have the funding. But we have all kinds of money sitting here. And some of these projects, if you don't buy the stuff now, you're not gonna have enough money appropriated because the cost of stuff is just going up so fast, so much. It's, and that's my concern with, we ask for the money and it sits and sits and sits and sits and sits and it just, finance and administration concerns.
Any other questions for Bob on highway before we move to building and grounds?
I'm not sure if this is the time, but could you ask,
It's about
it is about Rolston Road. A resident wrote to me that they added a bike lane on the plans and they were concerned that that was going to run interference with the start date. And I just wanted to verify that and get it on the August agenda to see if that's true. And we could speak to that if they are considering adding a bike lane that wasn't on the original plans.
I'm not aware of that. Have you heard anything on a bike lane?
I mean, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I'm gonna be speaking with the Commonwealth, so I'll be able to give a better answer when
For August.
Terry adds that August.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, buildings and grounds.
Building and grounds, continue with burial and flag duties. That's always ongoing. They had the April storm as well. With the parking lots and town buildings and highway. Cleared a lot of the artificial flowers and decorations from the cemeteries. Spring cleanup, town commons, parks, spring, picking up branches and getting prepared for mowing. Turn the water back on at the cemeteries. The crew moves some grills for the senior center for their cookouts. The 550 swamp loader, hook loader that was approved last year. That was ordered last July. The dealer did receive the chassis and now we're waiting for the outfitter to receive his parts to put it together. Again, short hand, lots to do, plenty of rain, grass ain't burning. Continuing trying to keep up with all the mowing and trimming and assisting the recreation and their needs as well. There were 11 interments, 3 lot sales, 3 lots that were redeeded, and they did 10 foundations. Last night, at Green Lawn, the lightning hit a big old hemlock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and blew the bark and wood probably 100 feet from the tree. It would have been a sight to see the lightning hit it, but
Yeah.
there was no damage, which was good.
Great questions for Bob on buildings and grounds.
Well, they also put a couple ACs up here, moved some around and put one in at the Scouts Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Question? Do you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I say, good job.
Oh.
It's a comment. Good job.
Bob, I think you're good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bob.
Parks and Rec.
Night, Mike.
Hi, Candace.
Hello, how are you? Good, Candace Grave, Commissioner of Parks and Rec. In the fourth quarter for fiscal 2024, in April, Parks and Rec was getting our new park laborer, Mike Dixon, settled into his role. Vanessa stepped up as the head coordinator for our softball and t-ball, and in April, we now started working on the pickleball tennis court at Gilman Waite. hoping to have it finished by August 3rd. Well, we'll see. We kicked off the season with picture day, with meet and greet, with the co-ed T-ball and our Babe Ruth girls softball season, which is a traveling team. T-ball, we had 4 teams and 39 players and 10 volunteer coaches and assistant coaches. We had one 8U rookie team, 2 10U minor teams, one 12U minor team, and a 16U senior team with a total of 61 players and 15 volunteer coaches and assistant coaches for the Babe Ruth League. We employed 7 umpires for the season. We would like to thank our sponsors, the Covers, Ottawa River Pub, Hayden Roofing, TCTV, Leominster Animal Hospital, Triumph Roofing, Long Noodle, and Sweeney Junk Removal, and the North Worcester County Homes. And we can't do it without our sponsors and all of our volunteers. It's just amazing how we get such support in this community and around the surrounding area. In May, Parks and Rec was running the concession stand at Gilman Waite, serving T-ball, the Babe Ruth Softball League, Narragansett games, their softball and their baseball games. And we scheduling umpires during that time frame. At Gilman Waite. We hired Jamie Floyd as the Parks and Rec staff as our concession stand manager. We're super excited about that. Jamie brings a lot of wonderful wisdom about that because she's
Former 20-year owner of Blue Moon.
Blue Moon Diner, yes. So we are very lucky to have Jamie on board.
Plus,
She retired and then she decided to come out of retirement and help us out at the concession stand and be our manager. So we're super lucky. We got many compliments on our parks, especially Gilman Waite and the concession stand from visitors. We welcomed a great addition to our staff, Rachel Flory. You met her the other night as our Park and Rec Commission administrative assistant. Another one. She's got a great background, so we're very lucky with her too. I think it's just we can't say enough about these 3 roles. The commissioner has now filled, the commission has now filled the 3 major roles for the first time, and we are very super excited about our future. In June, we were finishing up the softball and T-ball season. The players received their thank you medals and pins and gift cards for the coaches. The commission is very proud to announce that after having a 16U team, not having one since before 2020, the town's 16U Warriors girls Babe Ruth softball team made it to the final championship playoffs. And they placed 2nd overall in the North Central Mass Babe Ruth Softball League out of 8 towns.
Nice.
We're super, it was emotional. When we talked to them, cause they went into it, a very tough team on that last playoff game. And we were like, as a town, we are super proud of you. You guys set the bar high to come back like that, to be our first 16U team in a long time. It was just wonderful. They're just a great bunch of girls, the coaches, the staff, all the volunteers. What they do is wonderful for this town. Recreation registration started for the fall softball and soccer programs. We started that in June, and we're getting the word out also to get sponsors for those teams for this fall. So if anybody would like to sponsor, they can contact us at recreation@templetonma.gov. The Templeton swim director, Hunter Merriam, held his in-person summer signups for summer Red Cross swimming and safety program. And that's already underway. I know we're doing fiscal 4, but that all started this week with playgroup, and we kicked off wonderful. We hired Katie McClure as the playgroup coordinator and she continued during the month of June to hire and get volunteers and plan her program. We can continue to work on August 3rd's National Play Outside Day event with crafters. Getting the movie will be the Ninja Turtles, and just trying to put everything in place and get sponsors and get the buzz out there. We are looking forward to starting our project at Hooten Park. And then finishing the tennis pickleball court. Parks and Rec Commission is working on getting the word out to the town, to recruit new members for the Parks and Rec, Commission. And currently we have 4, members, but we have 3 openings. And we hope, that with the, putting the 3 major roles in place, hiring those major roles, that will give us, people to understand that it won't be as much work because we've hired people to take that off of the commissioners. So we hope that people will step forward to come forward to be on our commission. We are starting a campaign. We bought a banner and some posters. We're gonna put them up during National Play Outside Day. So hopefully we'll get some people interested. And that is it. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Could you tell me about the play group?
The play group, it's on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's 2 times. She goes from 9, they go from 9 to 11. And they come in, they sign in. And I don't know, what do you want me to tell you? I mean, they do crafts, they do they do a lot of different activities. They can sign up to go and they do like today they did tie-dye shirts. They charge $5 because that pays for the tie-dye. So that's what that money is going back into buying the supplies.
I just didn't
for
know
the
what it
stuff.
was.
Yeah, so we didn't call it, it used to be called Playground, but Katie's group helps us with the holiday movie. So we felt like we named it Play Group so that they
I
could
think
come out
that's
of,
good.
they
Yeah.
could come out of where they are.
Good.
Yeah, because we can do other things with that group. And Katie is, we are very lucky, again. She is very talented, very creative. Even our new one for soccer that's coming up, another great new person that has, they're very like, this is like when you meet them and they start talking to you, you're like, yeah, you're supposed to be doing this for us. Like this is your thing. This is your forte. So we are just lucky to have Katie, and she's put together a great group of people. Oh, I've watched them for the last 2 days, to represent our town in that program. We're very lucky.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So when you say a great group of people, how much help
Oh,
does she have? Because
I've lost track.
her agenda is ambitious, drip, drip, drop. There's games.
Oh,
there's
no, she has,
crafts,
yeah, we have
there's
quite a
plenty of
few volunteers.
things for
I-
the kids to
yeah.
choose.
Well, they have the 5, well, they're hiring the last one, but they have 5 counselors that they have, they get stipends. And then they have Katie, and then they have her assistant Kirby. So just them alone is the basic staff, and then they have the volunteer races,
Mhm.
that's gone in and got, Corey's and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know what her count is. But today I was helping a little boy, I noticed that they were getting stuff ready and he was not with the patients. So I stepped in and started talking so they could finish up what they were doing. So, I think it's like a team effort. I've seen a mother, help another person's child, because if they're little under 5, the parent can stay and help. So, yeah, they have the coverage to make sure everything is safe and put together.
Any other questions for Candace?
Well done by Parks and Rec as usual. You guys have an
Energy.
aggressive
It's
agenda,
amazing,
so.
Yeah.
Your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We're very lucky. We have a lot of people that make it work, so. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Candace.
Thanks, Candace. Thanks for all your time.
That includes fourth quarter reports for public services. We're gonna move on to action item E, action related to the boot drive for the Knights of Columbus. Hi, George, how are you?
Hi, George.
Okay, this is our usual thing that we do in October, the weekend of
Name
name
and,
oh, George Andrews. I'm sorry, trustee of the Knights of Columbus. Number 2536, Water River.
Thank you,
sir.
Okay, so this, we're doing this food drive like we do every October on Columbus Day weekend. And we just want to get the usual approval that we'll be able to do it. It's the same as usual. It's gonna be, hopefully gonna do it on the 12th of October from 8 to 12 up in the center of Templeton Center. Like we do, it is usually 5 of us at a time or 6 of us at a time at the different roads up there. And this goes to the handicapped kids that we support for ramps and to have ramps put in vehicles and put them to go to camp, you know, did all kinds of things for the handicapped kids, for those under 18 years of age. So that's basically what it's for.
Great.
Okay,
And I see, George gave me a note before, the meeting that he wanted to add to the application his rain date of October 19th.
Right.
And it would be the same schedule of 8 to 12. So whether you annotate the ones that you have in front of you, or if Holly can make note on the original, that the rain date is October 19th. Thank you for that. Are there any questions for George? Like
Mr.
you
Chair,
said, this is an annual, we've seen him many times before. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the boot drive for October 12th, 2024 as presented, and to include the rain date of October 19th, 2024.
Second. Okay. But he conceded his second to Tim. Like a play-by-play. And he throws the second. So I had a motion and a second from Tim. Any further questions? Hearing none on the motion to approve the boot drive with the noted rain date, how would you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, George.
thank you very much.
Next item is action related to a one-day wine and malt license for Honest Weight Artisan Beer LLC. Come on up, sir.
Yeah, big guys.
Junior, Mr. Nolan.
I am Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Nolan's business
Oh,
partner.
okay, sorry.
Jay Sullivan,
Hey Sullivan, sorry. I went with the first one
brewer.
on there.
brewer, owner, Honest Weight Artisan Beer in Orange. Good evening.
Good
evening, sir.
evening.
Okay. This is in support of Play Outside Day.
Correct.
Vendor fair. Okay,
Mr. Chair, I just want to let you know that he has already submitted his insurance certificate and we have the tip certification. They are all set to go.
We like getting paperwork in early.
I like that.
tips and insurance are good.
Wise move.
Any questions for Mr. Sullivan?
I just have one for Mr. Sullivan through the chair. At the very bottom of the page, will entertainment be provided for this event? Yes. If yes, you must also apply for a one-day live entertainment license. Do we know if that's been done?
I did not.
Okay.
Is that correct that there will be entertainment provided?
But not by them, by Parks and Rec.
That's what I
That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
ask.
That's a really good point,
We have to
Tim.
fill one out, we'll fill one out, but we didn't know.
No, you don't need to.
Oh, we don't,
Because
okay, yeah,
you're-
because
you
we
have-
have a,
So
we
should
have
we
a
just-
stick of
He's not
stars.
providing.
He's
It's the
not,
Play
that's
Outside
our,
Day.
it's our
So should we
event,
just
yes.
amend that to no rather than yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is an amended application.
I hate to be picky, but
No,
Yeah,
you're
no,
100%. Yeah,
dot the
yeah,
i's,
thank-
cross the t's.
Yep.
No, good,
Thank you for
good,
catching
good
that.
catch. Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I move to approve the one-day wine and malt license for Honest Weight Artisan Beer LLC for August 3rd, 2024, as presented, and to amend at the bottom of the license, will there entertainment be provided at this event to no?
have a motion.
Second.
I have Jeff as the second. Any further questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
through the chair, is there a rain date for National Play Outside Day?
No,
Okay, I just,
we're fine,
What play? what
Rain or
year?
shine.
I play, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we do softball, and the girls play in the rain,
that's all I had.
Any other questions?
just the
Good
movie,
point.
that's the only thing.
All right, hearing none. I have a motion to approve as amended the wine and malt license application for Honest Weight Artisan Beer. How would you vote? Tim,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks, you later. You too.
Okay, next item is action related to a grant agreement with the First Church of Templeton for First Church of Templeton exterior renovation. Packet, you have got the grant agreement. And as noted in the signed agreement from First Church is that The funding was approved by town meeting on May 15th. Is there any further presentation for the grant application? Other than
Mr.
what's in the
Chair.
packet. Go ahead, Adam.
This was presented, Jess Case, who provides administrative support for CPC, brought this to our office. This pretty much or standard language that you've approved in the past.
Mhm.
And I just want to note on both these, they were both approved by town council review as well.
Okay, thank you for having that. So
So you
there-
say both of these, you
legal
mean item
review.
G and item H, the two grant applications, thank you.
And just specifically, the appropriation of approximately $331,000 from the undesignated fund is for the nonprofit First Church of Templeton for structural renovation of the front exterior, including the steeple, tenement, and facade to the historic First Church of Templeton. Public benefits includes preservation and enhancement of historic backdrop provided by the church to the town common and all of Templeton residents.
I also believe at one time, way back when, that was a meeting place for the town.
Mhm.
So it's
Wouldn't surprise me.
not
Yep.
just a church.
Yeah.
You know, because back in the day, meetings at taverns or churches. That's the way it was.
Agreed. So if there were no, well, if there's obviously after a motion's made, questions, I'd entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the grant agreement with First Church of Templeton for First Church of Templeton exterior renovation and for the board to sign.
I have a motion and Jeff seconded. Thanks, Terry and Jeff. Any further discussion?
Just a question. Return of funds, if there was any overage, do the funds go to CPC or general fund? If there's no CPC, they go back to CPC. Okay, that's just,
Yeah, they're appropriated for that.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Anything further?
Just a general question.
Sure.
And I'm just throwing this out there. This was approved at town meeting on May 15th, and we're not seeing it till now. I think we can try to look at accelerating these a little bit, because some of these projects, we're losing work time.
Okay.
We sign this now, we're looking at a month, 6 weeks out before they can get started at a minimum.
That's a good point. Thank you, Tim. Well, at least one party signed on it, so that'll save some time. Anything else? Hearing none on approving the grant agreement for First Church of Templeton for the exterior renovation. How do you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes,
Matt?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. A unanimous vote. What are we doing for time now?
7:32.
7:34.
7:30. Whatever you say.
I'm looking at that clock.
Okay.
7:32.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a little bit fast. Okay, next item is grant agreement with Narragansett Historical Society for the Templeton Grange Hall ADA lift access. This is for $50,000. As I had previously said, this was approved at our past annual town meeting, May 15th. The appropriation of $50,000 from the Templeton CPA and undesignated fund balance reserved for the nonprofit Narragansett Historical Society to create an ADA compliant lift access to the second floor of the historic Templeton Grange Hall. Public benefits include no cost to residents of Templeton to access when the building is open to the public. And TA has already said that this has been reviewed by town council. So I'd entertain a motion to accept this grant agreement.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the grant agreement with Narragansett Historical Society for Templeton Grange Hall ADA lift access and for the board to sign.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and it's seconded by Matt. Any further discussion or questions?
Just a comment. It's going to be interesting how to fit ADA compliance in a historic building. They're doing a good job with it from the description and I've been watching some of
Yeah,
them.
they're very impassioned about that. And
The rules are strict.
I am a member of a life member of the Narragansett Historical Society as as a disclosure. I think you are.
Yes,
You
full
are.
disclosure, I am as well.
Their newsletter, basically, you can see the progress that, and the passion for that.
Yeah, this is just another one, just a general comment, the timeline and the lag. If anybody's been over there, and they've been opening up the Grange on the Tuesday nights when they do the historical society meetings. And the downstairs portion of this is done. The well is already in place. They have not cut the wall upstairs yet because it doesn't make sense till they have the full funding, get the equipment. But again, we have a time lag ordering and having the equipment delivered to put the elevator itself in.
Mhm.
So again, this is probably a late August, September timeframe before we see some forward motion.
Okay. Again, good point.
Yep.
Any further discussion or questions? Right, hearing none on the grant, on the grant agreement motion to approve for the Narragansett Historical Society for the ADA lift access. How would you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff? Terry?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That's unanimous.
7:35.
7:35. Okay. All right, moving along to action related to Main Street Bridge repair article in question.
Return.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in your packet, not only do you have suggested language for fall town meeting, but also the state election. And a host of supporting documentation for where we're at with the bridge.
Yep.
I appreciated it, adding that stuff in, because some of the pictures really, it's our decision to add it back on there. Or we're one of the possible people that can put that on there, but we gotta fix Main Street's access.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
we have two comments.
okay,
So first of all, thank you, for the preparation with regards to this. The inspection field report is very enlightening. I would note that if you take a look at the front page of that report, about halfway down the section, I'm sorry, about 2/3 of the way down, you see on the right-hand side, the overall previous condition and the overall current condition. And unfortunately, those numbers are not going up. The overall current condition is lower than a year ago. I assume this is an annual.
Yeah.
Annual check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we just got a new bridge inspection not too long ago from MassDOT.
Yeah, that's what this is the
Yeah.
April bridge inspection.
So if you compare to the one prior to it, slowly decreasing and
So, yeah, not good news, obviously. We knew this was gonna happen. And my second comment is that I am much more, I feel like the language for the warrant item is far more transparent than we put on the annual town meeting. From what I've heard, many of the complaints are that on the annual town meeting, we didn't put a number to this. And that people didn't want to write a blank check to the town for however much was potentially needed to do this. The fact that we can put a number in here that's, while it is a lot of money at $3.7 million, the fact that we have, the number there, I think is going to be helpful. My only question is that where we do have the number of $3.7 million in the question to the fall town meeting warrant, of course, do we need to have the number in the question that's actually going to go on the ballot as well? And legal says, no, we don't have to do that.
I could double check. And as I know, the warrant article, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The warrant article is what the town's bound to if the question were to pass. So by the number being in the warrant article, we're bound to that number or any sum less.
Okay. The biggest thing that I think that we are going to have to do, and I say we collectively, is that we are going to have to really promote this and give the people the explanation that they need as to how we're going to pay this back, The fact that this is gonna be over 15 years bonds. And that as a result, the impact to people's, their property tax rate is a very small amount. And that, there's also, potential for reimbursement by a grant.
That's correct.
Hmm?
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's
and,
Central.
I don't know if that also, I know we also have the, there's an earmark in the state, budget for the 3 million that I don't know if this would wipe that, 2 million, I'm sorry. If this would wipe that out, or if this would, or if we could still would be able to get that and it would go against it. You're nodding your head, so we could still get that and it would go against it. So there's multiple avenues here.
Marketing is what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
the biggest thing is exactly, we have to promote this the right way.
Yeah.
And I think it's a collective we need to make sure that we are, that we have a good message moving forward in order to make sure that this, number one, is passed at the fall town meeting, and number two, that we don't have 65 or more blank votes at the election, which is, again, I think that was a big reason that we did not get this approved at the town election, is because we had 65 blank votes of people who either missed it or had no opinion on it because they were misinformed or not well informed enough. That's my
Mr.
Well, I mean, if the rest of
Thank
the
you.
board believes that that was, you know, the language and missing the amount, if it was possible to have the amount on the ballot, would the board want it on the ballot? I had a feeling that the ballot
It's-
question,
Is not required, it not historically has not been in the thing, and I get that information from Proposition 2.5 ballot questions from the Division of Local Services. And again, the contingent spending article for town meeting, in their suggested article for a borrowing article, in the motion, there is a dollar amount. And historically in Templeton, if you go back and look at the annual town meetings, all the contingent articles have had a dollar amount in them. Because people aren't willing to write a blank check. I ain't gonna sign a check, Jeff Bennett, and hand it to Matt and say, have a good time. You know, it's just, it's hesitant to do that.
Yep.
And maybe we should get a refund from town council for recommending no dollar amount. On the article to we want to be careful on promoting or even opposing the question. And this is in this paperwork. Anderson versus City of Boston. Local officials can take a position on an override or exclusion question and speak in favor or opposition to it as an individual.
Mhm.
You cannot spend public funds or use public resources such as personnel, supplies, and facilities to promote or oppose the question.
Mhm.
So
We could say
we
it.
can provide facts, but we can't say
Right.
this, that, the other thing. Yeah, well, I just don't want to see us trying to push so hard for it that we get ourselves in
Mhm.
trouble, and by us, I mean, it would be us five.
Yep.
Because we're the ones that get to answer
I
the
understand.
question, and, you know,
And
they don't come to talk to anybody else, but
Mr. Chair,
Hang on a sec. Jeff, what was what's could you show me the cover sheet again? That's a DLS guidebook for Prop 2.5.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you just type that in and it pops right up. It's like 28 pages or so.
Yep. Go ahead, Terry.
in keeping with Jeff saying we can promote facts, well, in layman's terms, I had to look up SPALD, which is, when I looked it up, it had more of an effect, split, cracking, flaking off, fragmented. Efflorescence is salt, which can lead to erosion. Delaminated emotive failure, where a material fractures into layers. Beam 1 defects, out of service. Beam 2 out of service, beam 8 out of service, beam 9 out of service. Beam 10 out of service.
5x7 pole recently patched.
Mhm.
Facts.
Go ahead, Bob. Just make sure and you're
Chair,
not gonna come up, just make sure you're speaking loud enough.
would it be a good idea for a project this size to maybe have what should we do at times, like a neighborhood meeting held at the auditorium? To try to educate the residents on how important it is and what's involved and how it moves forward
Absolutely. That's.
prior to the fall town
Yeah.
meeting.
A listening session.
I have one other question, and this is probably gonna go through you to the town administrator.
Of course.
It looks like you're proposing to put this on the fall special town meeting warrant. Is that correct?
Correct.
So typically we've held that in November, which is after the general election. Does that mean we're planning on pushing we're trying to push that, so that we hold the, fall town meeting in October in order to be able to put this on the general election ballots?
I believe it would have to be an October policy. I believe it's October 15th to November 15th. So because the election's November, really first Tuesday in November, if I recall correctly.
First after the first.
Yeah, it's a
after the first
presidential
Monday.
election. It would have to be October.
Yeah.
And I have to check with the moderator and the town clerk to make sure we could coordinate that date. So have to be the earliest October 15th.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I want to say last year we had our fall special in November.
Yep.
After the election,
But if I can, Mr. Chair,
election day, I should say.
Of course.
I got your answer, Mr. Rivard.
Yeah.
If I wanted to kind of go off of what Bob was saying about the neighborhood meeting, and I think to Jeff's point, Mr. Bennett's point that he brought up, we could do it for informational purposes. It's that balance between going overstepping,
Mhm.
but providing information. I
Yep.
think that's
fact.
an important
Facts, exactly. Yeah.
facts. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a general comment,
Of course.
and speaking as a citizen's taxpayer. Time is not our friend, as we've seen. We just had the report, the 5x7 hole that had to have the emergency repairs. If anybody saw Tuesday's news down in Worcester where a water main collapsed and it took out half of a bridge.
Yep.
That is becoming more and more and more of a concern every time I look at it, I go over that bridge. We've had this restricted. And now reading this, additional beam wear and damage, and it's just, how long can we kick the can down the road?
Mhm.
Before we have a catastrophic failure, and then we have no choice. It's gotta be fixed, so. Just things to think about.
If I end up in the drink driving over it, South Carolina, here I come.
The water wings.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to include the article on the fall town meeting warrant and to bring the question to the state election ballot as
Second.
presented.
Second.
Okay, a motion in a second. Any further discussion or any questions? Hearing none. On the motion for Main Street Bridge, for the meeting and the election inclusion, how do you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes,
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Yep, time is 7:47. Okay, next item is action related to intermunicipal agreement with Winchendon for the operation of a shared tree crew. And then right after that is also an intermunicipal agreement with Winchendon for a road widener. Bob, you're gonna be able to speak to any of these?
I don't have a copy of that in front of me.
Okay. I just wanted you to come to the microphone. Okay, for the shared tree crew in front of you, you've got an intermunicipal agreement between us and the town of Winchendon. And this first one, Templeton and Winchendon are in need of completing tree work in each of the communities. And this agreement would put, remember it, puts basically a team together of one of ours, one of theirs, and they go about working on tree work.
Bob Suzik, Director of Public Services. Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Chair. Winchendon already posted their position. as said under these guidelines, Winchendon will be in charge of their employee and I'll be in charge of ours. That employee of ours will join our DPW union and follow those guidelines in under direction when they're in Templeton under me, and in Winchendon it'll be under Mr. Croto. And during the winter months, storm weather or treatments, he'll be using his guy to help increase his plowing and treating for the winter, and the same with. So it will be nice to have an extra body. The agreement right now is set forth to use Winchendon's equipment when they're in Winchendon and Templeton's equipment when they're in Templeton. Further down the road, we might be looking at possibly getting a bigger stick to do more work besides 40 feet. And maybe possibly some other equipment, but that's much down the road. But this is gonna put us in great shape and get a lot more done that we are currently now, as far as pruning, a lot of dead wood, dead trees, preventive, pruning, balancing. There's so much to do. And I think Templeton is gonna be happy to see the improvements once we get started. And we're looking to get this posted as soon as possible and get started up as soon as possible.
Bob, you mentioned about the union.
Yeah.
Does that need to be in this agreement?
Not necessarily, because they're gonna be employed by
Okay.
Winchendon and Temple, and they're gonna fall under the agreement of.
Any questions for Bob?
I do.
Yep.
First off, it says in here, actually, first off, how's this gonna affect getting other work done in town that needs to be done, because you said the culvert work hasn't started because you don't have enough crew, right? You're short. So how is this gonna affect other stuff getting done in Templeton if so one guy is up in Winchendon working on tree stuff?
This is my main focus is tree work. And then the second main focus is assisting with storms during the winter. If one of them, once they start create or has vacation or sick time and they're unable to work singly within that town, it'll be in my direction what he's gonna do, whether it's maintenance on a bucket truck or a chipper, or maybe doing some hand pruning where two guys ain't needed. But I'm not gonna be taking him all the time to assist the DPW to fill in that void. His main focus is the tree stuff and storms.
But it's one of your guys that's employed by the town at the DPW now, right? And they're gonna be doing tree work?
I don't know who's gonna get this. I gotta post it. I don't know if any of my current guys will apply for this. This will be a job posting. Yes, they can apply for it. And we'll do that. We're gonna have an interview and the whole process, but I don't know who's gonna get it yet.
I think what you're trying to say is this is a new position.
Yeah, correct. It's a brand new position.
What's the time frame for this to start? Do you have an idea?
As soon as possible, when she has already
Have
advertised.
money in the budget?
Yep.
To pay extra people and training and
It's been in the budget and passed at the town meeting to hire this position.
so my next question would be. It's tree work, so. If any trees have to come down. What's the process for the tree hearings?
They will be directed by myself, the tree warden, on what to prune and cut. And if there is a tree or a shade tree in the commons, there will be hearings for the trees, but anything like 1.5 inch, 2 inch minus that's gonna be affected by a heavy wet snow, anything major or within a tight property line with a town right away or a private property, there will be a tree hearing. And if there is somebody that complains about a tree at a tree hearing and I disagree, or it's gonna come forth to the select board to make a decision.
Okay, because, I'm just looking at the various laws on shade trees. And if there's any doubt that the tree is in the highway or not, it will be assumed it's a shade tree and you have to have a tree hearing. And there's no getting around that. The only people who could override that is the board of selectmen if it's an emergency, safety hazard, like it's a dead tree or something, but just. And unless it's obstructing the roadway is the way the law reads. I just don't want to see. We get caught up in this shared thing and we start doing stuff and, well, that tree got to come down. And we don't follow. We have a problem with finance and administration right now, and it's creeping up and getting bigger and I'm more concerned with it. Because I believe there was a tree cut down on Shady Lane and there was no tree hearing for it, and it's right next to a town-owned light pole. And it's up 20-something inches in diameter. And not even the tree warden can cut a tree down bigger than 1.5 inches in diameter without a tree hearing, unless it's a safety hazard in the roadway.
So yes, I approved that tree to be cut.
But you can't do that without a tree
It
hearing.
was in a safety, it was a driveway. And you can't, I know you guys are going back and forth, move the driveway, but if you move the driveway on the other side, then the safety and instruction is gonna be on the other side of the driveway. I don't do it as a common practice, Jeff, just to cut any tree.
Okay,
I use
But-
my best judgment. In a worst case scenario, I'm gonna come to the select board if I have any question.
okay. I'm just reading the law that says if the tree is in a safety hazard in the roadway, that tree is not in the roadway. So no one can order that tree to be cut down without a tree hearing.
I don't have the chapter 87, all the law. There is a chapter section. I'll find it and send it to you where, yes, if we don't have no town policy and we're working on talking about coming up with a policy, which is good, and which protects me as a tree ward. I know what section you're talking about, and there is another section. I'll try to highlight it and get it to you.
Everything I've looked says, not even the tree warden can cut a tree down without a hearing. And I don't want us going down these roads where we're just, well, it's just that one time, and I think it was this. Then we ought to take all the bylaws and all the policies and throw them away. We're not gonna follow stuff. It's just, stuff is just bothering me because it's starting to stack up. Especially.
So
finance.
if it's a dead tree and if it's a hazard, I do not have to have a tree hearing. If it's a dead tree
If it's a.
or a
dead tree,
hazard to the
Board of
public,
Selectmen can override the tree hearing and order it cut down, but not the tree warden. Unless somebody can show me this. the law
I
that says
disagree with you
otherwise.
because it's an immediate hazard, Joe.
So,
The
Gentlemen,
tree's
let's
gonna come down.
So we're looking at an intermunicipal agreement right now. If we have another issue in terms of
I wanna make sure
authority.
that this doesn't lead. to
I
us,
understand
you know,
from a training
not-
perspective, I totally followed. I was listening to everything that you had to say. I just want to make sure we're keeping on the main topic. But as it related, you get Jeff's point to, as it
I do.
relates to training and supervision.
I do.
Okay.
And we're looking, there's enough pruning and trimming and canopies over the sidewalks that affecting the town equipment and everything else. It's years of work. So we're not just gonna go out and start bucking up big trees because we don't like them.
Got it. believe we don't have a motion yet, so are there any other questions? If there are, at least at this time, I'd entertain a motion.
I do have a comment and a question.
Sure.
Looking at this, the very start, okay, we've changed some words. This is still basically a proclamation statement as it starts off. I'm having real difficulty with that. I'm also having real difficulty with this agreement and the first paragraph that starts additionally. These are giant run-on sentences. I see a lot of commas where there should be semicolons or periods, just general observation. Getting on to page 3, records. I see we're spelling out quite explicitly what the town of Winchendon is expected to do. I don't see anything what the town of Templeton is expected to do. Was that an oversight? Was that intentional? I don't know.
That's their equipment, and we keep records on our own equipment.
Do we have to dictate Winchendon keeps records on their equipment? I don't think that belongs in this agreement.
That can be taken out. The equipment's part of the DPW, which is maintained through us, so.
Just an observation.
And you don't like the word additionally?
No, I can jump in on that. So Tim has made some observations on how we organize our memorandums, agreements, all those sorts of things. And from a template perspective, Tim's observation is that this is still too close to a proclamation format. So I understand what he's saying.
Versus a contract. Yes.
So, is there enough, does the board feel like there's enough amendments to this intermunicipal agreement that we agree with corrections or table, waiting for corrections? As you were saying earlier, Tim, daylight's burning, for, I get that aspect. Bob's looking for it. I want to support him for that. As far as the actual agreement, if there's some wordsmithing or structure, I think we could work on that. What's the board's feelings on that? I understand.
Mr. Chair, when you say work on it, mean pass this, vote on this tonight and then
Make corrections recommended by the select.
Yeah,
board.
basically it would be revise for structure, remove section 6. And trying to characterize the
language.
grammar.
The only other
And
question.
it's not the language,
Yep.
it was the grammar.
The grammar.
Yep.
The only other question I would have though is, and this is really specific to section 6 more than anything else, not so much the grammar end of it that Tim is concerned with, is that it would have to go back to Winchendon for them to agree on that particular section. Excuse me?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So this was sent over from Winchendon. I did change some wordsmithing due to Mr. Toth's concerns about whereas, and I did some wordsmithing to try to make it not look like a proclamation, because he mentioned that at a couple of meetings.
But it's how they sent it over to us?
No, I changed just that word whereas to additionally. That way I wasn't doing too much wordsmithing with Winchendon.
Excuse
But this is
me.
Winchendon's what draft, with the exception of those changes.
Excuse me, not to cut into
Correct.
Adam, Mr. Chair, but can I get clarification? Adam, when Winchendon sent it to us, Mike was asking, did Winchendon send it to us with, instead of the words additionally, whereas? Instead of, so if you tried to make a win with Tim, but Winchendon sent it to us with whereas, and that was acceptable for Winchendon, that says a lot to me. All this complaining about wording, and it's very frustrating that it's acceptable for Winchendon to send it to us, but it seems like we're beating a dead horse. We have a good thing going and, I don't know. I just
That's why
disagree with Tim, and
tried
I
to
think that,
compromise to say, for the spirit of it, I'd like to move forward with it, pending at least those 3 changes. If
I mean,
I really
the
don't think we
structure
should.
is basically how you guys have heard Tim say it before.
Yep.
I understand where he's going. Like whether it's what you see right now or another format, the spirit is the same. It's an intermunicipal agreement. But really, it's just the grammar and that's section 6.
It's, I mean, may I
Yeah,
make a suggestion on section 6 instead of where it says Winchendon or the town of Winchendon, just replace that with the towns. Shall ensure the creation of
Or the
maintenance,
parties.
or the
because-
party, whatever, yeah,
because
whatever would be
it
the,
says that in the first section.
whatever the legally sufficient wording would be, yeah, if it would be towns or the parties. And
Yeah, that's a really good point.
that would solve that.
That goes to his
Yeah.
to Bob's answer. Bob's answer was, well, I keep my own records. He basically does the same thing as section 6. So if we just replace the parties.
And if, and I mean, I think Bob with that,
Yeah, they said any changes you want, do the change. This is how they presented it to their town and they.
because this way the burden is not, I mean, the burden is where it should be, which is equally upon each town to make sure their own records are to par.
Agreed, because as I read this, we're dictating to the town of Winchendon, but what are we doing ourselves? And that was the question mark that really
Yep.
raised for me.
Yeah. So Tim, have my day job, I do contracts all the time. I very much understand what Tim's approach there is. So again, if we amend section 6, we're looking at just minor changes of grammar, which wind up changing if you change the structure of that first part. Changing Winchendon to parties in section 6. Purpose, scope. Am I going on the right track there, Tim?
Yep.
Okay, so I can work with Bob and Adam just to basically say what our agreement would be, and then you can take it back to Winchendon and say, hey, they had these minor tweaks. They would rather see contract type language rather than proclamation-ish. So
So the next question is, do we table it and have it come back in August rewritten, or do we approve it as?
I'd rather send, with
Send it back.
those amendments, send it back as.
I would
give-
say authorize the chair to,
Okay.
that way the chair and I will finish it.
The substance of this agreement, it sounds like people are agreeing with it. And there's just some structure. And section 6 just needs to be parties. That's minor. Otherwise, what I'd ask the board to consider tonight, if as a positive, is to approve the intermunicipal agreement with those changes. Nothing substantive is gonna come out of that other than the contract structure in the beginning, and then section 6 would be parties. And if Winchendon says, yep, we're good with it, we've already approved it.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the intermunicipal agreement with Winchendon for the operation of a shared tree crew, and with the addendum that you would work with Adam on the language, making it a contract versus a type of proclamation. So for the purpose and the scope of the agreement. And for who would sign, then would, and for the town administrator to sign.
That's a motion.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Okay,
And I would request further amendment for section 6, wherever
thank
it
you.
says Winchendon or town of Winchendon be changed to say the parties.
okay, so moved
So moved.
and
So
Second.
okay. We have a motion and a second.
If I may, Mr. Chair, do
Yes.
you instead of saying contract, I think you should use the language of contract agreement. So it just focus on. contract.
Yeah, the purpose of that is to basically take the proclamation-ish
Mhm.
language out of it. I understood it.
I do know. yeah.
As she said, Adam and Mike, and you are gonna amend that. I understand what it is. It's not gonna change it to a contract. It's gonna be an agreement, an intermunicipal agreement.
Oh, that's right. yeah.
Any other questions or clarifications? Is everyone good with that? Keep that on the front of your brain because we got another one. All right, I'm gonna come for the vote on the motion to agree. The motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement for the shared tree crew with amendments to section 6 and the structure of the agreement. How would you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
Terry?
Yes,
Matt?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. What time is it?
8:10.
8:10 and one nay on that.
Yep.
Okay, the next item is for an intermunicipal agreement for the operation of a road widener. Mr. Sullivan, if you could just
So
paraphrase.
the road widener is a device that goes on the front of the loader, which the trucks dump into, which will fill in the shoulders of berm after road work or paving has been done. And it's gonna eliminate a couple of people raking and shoveling, and the process will go much farther and faster per day than the way we're doing it now. The road widener is pretty much gonna work the same as like the brine machine. If Winchendon has a road widener, they will do their work. It's gonna go rather fast, and then we'll take it and do our work. If Winchendon doesn't have any other work for it, it will be housed in Templeton, or vice versa. If we blow a hydraulic hose while we're using it or they're using it, they're gonna fix it. If it's a major repair, we will go in-house on the major repair. So whoever ends up with it last is where it will be for the winter type deal. But it's not gonna be a problem. From working with them in the past, Brian's pretty good over there as far as if I'm in a pinch and I need it, he'll stop what he's doing and I'll take it, or vice versa, so. It only should take us about a week to get done what we need to get done from the past year, so. It's gonna be a big asset and save a lot of man power and time and labor.
Thanks, Bob. So section 2.1 purchase will be done by Winchendon. It's their property. It's their,
Well, he purchased it and he's gonna send an invoice for our half. Just because the way he ran it through his town manager and the company that built the machine didn't want to invoice two towns.
Okay, so they're gonna buy it, and then the agreement does say that the parties shall jointly undertake the purchase of the road widener, and the cost of the road will be divided equally between the two communities.
okay. But I was, the question really was to go to question 6. Where it talks about records maintenance. Who will actually keep the records maintenance? I get the joint ownership of it, but where were the official records?
Well,
Is section
I'll
6
probably,
appropriate in this one?
right, so if it's just a hose, they're gonna fix it and go back to work, and be noted. But if it's a major repair, we're actually working with our software program, trying to implement all this stuff, and I can add that into it and keep track of it.
All right, so it sounds like section 6 also needs to be parties.
Yep.
Not Winchendon, if we're gonna have our own maintenance records kept on it.
Just one other question, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Mr. Zosik, through the chair. Do we know the approximate cost of this, or are we hitting the $10,000 threshold where the board makes the decision? Or are we coming in
It
under
was
that?
Half the cost, what was it, 30? I don't have the number in front of me, but the total cost is 60-something thousand, and we're responsible for half that cost. Which it did go through capital and loaded on the town.
So it is over the $10,000 threshold where it falls onto this board. That's the question. Thank you.
okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
could we just clean up section 2.1? Purchase will be done by the Winchendon shall be the lead municipality, just language. Purchase shall be done by the town of Winchendon.
Yeah.
It just says by the Winchendon.
Whom shall be the lead municipality?
Oh, good
Purchase
word.
shall,
Yeah,
purchase will be done by the town of Winchendon, whom shall be the lead municipality.
good word.
Also want to change the proclamation-ish.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
I move to approve the intermunicipal agreement with Winchendon for the operation for a road widener as amended with language adjustments to make it more like a contract, and specifically in section 6, wherever it says Winchendon or town in Winchendon, amend to say the parties. And for the town and to authorize,
In section 2:1.
that was under language, language amendments.
Yeah.
Got it.
and for the TA.
And so to authorize the chair and the TA to make those amendments and for the TA to sign the final document.
Okay, for the motion,
Second,
and a second. Thanks, Terry. Any further questions or considerations?
Just on, the second page, it says undertake the purchase of the road widener, and then it says the cost of the road backer,
Yeah, it should be widening.
that,
oh yeah,
maybe have a senior.
Fall under the
tax
language
rate or
amendment.
proofread.
It would fall into the language amendments.
Yep.
And since it says liability for breakage, if it's broke in this town, they'll repairable parts will be paid for by the town where it's done. Where will this be garaged over the winter?
As I just explained, whoever ends up with it last will garage it for the winter, whether it's here or Winchendon.
This in Templeton or in Winchendon?
Whoever uses it last,
Okay.
as well stay for the winter. Winchendon can store it inside. I don't have the room to store it inside.
Any other questions? Considerations? Okay, hearing none on the motion to approve an intermunicipal agreement for the operation of a road widener between Templeton and Winchendon with language amendments in 2-1 contract language amendments in the first section to be done by the chair and the TA and for the TA to sign.
And the amendments in 6.
And the amendments for parties in section 6. How would you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Terry?
yes,
Matt?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. That was 5 yeses. 8-17. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
next
you, Bob.
item is action related to a donation of loom for Templeton Common Area. Loam. Said both ways. Maybe
Mr.
not.
Chair, I move to approve the donation of loom as presented.
Seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Terry. Any discussion on Mr. Skorko's request for donation? And this would be to fill 3 or 4 inches of depression on the common lawn in front of the 3 Boynton residents with loom
Good
in
loom,
order to plant grass in the fall or early spring.
good
Bob-
loom.
Bob, I'm taking it you're aware of this?
Yeah, I wasn't aware directly. I was, Adam, talked to me about it. And what it is up there, as you all know, the road is fairly narrow. People keep pulling up. Right in a rut, when it's especially with all the rain and stuff we're having in winter time, when the snow melts and the chemicals get to it. We've added loom in those areas in the past, and it just keeps getting blowing out. I don't wanna end up putting gravel or regrind there, cause it's just gonna keep working further into the grass line.
Okay.
But if they're willing to donate it and go try it again, we're happy to accept that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In the correspondence, Mr. Skorko said it's happening all along Boynton Road and makes the common area in the center look bad and unkempt. He presented another thought that may help preserve the road and grass. And he asked us to follow up with the highway department if it may be appropriate. Should we put that on a different agenda? because it's not on tonight's agenda?
I
Or
I don't.
can we talk
necessarily-
about it tonight and
I don't
see what,
necessarily need to put it on an agenda, but if Bob and Mr. Skorko want to talk, I think that's great.
I thought he wanted us to. He's asking us to follow up. In the bottom, please follow up with the highway department if it may be appropriate. That's a request to the select board in my interpretation.
I'm not interpreting it that way. I'm interpreting it that he has some recommendations, and so I'd like Mr. Skorko and Bob to talk.
Do you know anything about it, Bob?
That's why I'm saying he can talk to him offline.
Adam?
I know we talked a couple of years ago about doing some improvements up in the town common, and I recommended that we do some parking across from the library in light of the new elementary school on Wellington, creating some spots there and improving that the center of town, but we haven't got any. money.
Adam, if you could forward the email to Bob, that would be great. It'd be great. I think that would facilitate the communication he was looking for.
Okay, so that's how you interpret
Yeah.
it. He's asking us to
If
spend,
they come up with something, they can come back to us at that
okay,
time.
so that's not a request from us, but a request from us to,
A request for what? We don't know what.
yeah.
If, especially if he just said, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
So I think we can facilitate what he's looking for. Adam can forward it to Bob. Bob, then he has his email, and we can still consider the donation tonight.
I trust you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, the motion is out there with the second on accepting the donation. Any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the donation of loan for the Templeton Common area. How would you vote? Tim?
Yes.
Jeff? Yes. Matt?
yes.
Terry?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, Mr. Skorko. Appreciate it. Okay, next item is action related to collective bargaining agreement between the town of Templeton and the professional firefighters of Templeton, local 5311 International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO. Ladies and gentlemen, you have under 6M in your packet. We have seen this before. And Adam had provided us information on it. Adam, are there any changes or is this ready for approval tonight?
It is ready for approval, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Before some, are there any questions before any motions are made? All right, then I would entertain the motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Templeton and the professional firefighters of Templeton, local 5311, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, and for the board to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
just housekeeping on page 9, Article 15 probationary period. Section D, second paragraph, for the purpose of his section, it should be this section.
Could you say where that is again?
Page 9,
Yep,
Article 15,
yep.
Section D, second
Yeah.
paragraph. First sentence, first half of the sentence, for the purpose of his section, it should be this section,
This, okay.
simple,
All right, so amending
As amended
as amended.
and seconded.
and seconded, okay.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Just a historical question for Adam, if it's okay through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Adam, is this our second go round with this union? They're a new union. So 3 years have gone by? And how many years? Is this your second time?
I believe their contract ran January through June 30, 2024, if I remember. So I think it was like
Just expired.
just expired.
Has it changed?
So this is their second contract.
Has it changed much? Any specific changes you want to draw attention to or you're proud of or?
Other than the ones they already went over with?
Yeah, pretty much went over this with the board, when we were in executive session.
Okay, okay.
But I will say, I am happy that the union did agree to allow the town to move contingent upon approval from other unions to move from 75 to 70%. The town would pay for the health insurance.
Did a
I
good
think that's
job.
important to note for,
27 pages. This was a lot of work. I appreciate it.
but they all, in fairness to the union, they also, we had funds in the budget. A pretty substantial pay raise their first year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Templeton and professional firefighters of Templeton, local 5311, International Association of Firefighters. How would you vote? Tim,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well.
8:20.
8:25. Unanimous. Right, we are out of actions in new business. We are now to discussion items. The first discussion item is discussion related to an ARPA status
Bob.
project update. See you, Bob. This was requested by Matt, I believe, in the last meeting, and I can see that we have item N in the book. So Nat and Adam, do you have any
Brief background.
observations?
A brief background on why this is requested. This is brought up in citizen input at the last meeting when you were out of country. And I was able to use my then ability as the chair to have this placed on this meeting
that's
for review. I asked for a review of all of the items that we expect. We basically said we were going to put money towards with the ARPA money, and a statement of where we are as far as contractual obligations go, and for the items that are not contractually obligated yet, what the plan is moving forward to get them done. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Lamontagne at this point there are 4 items on here, but I believe that are not fully contractually obligated at this point, and I'd like to leave it to him to explain those items at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Rivard. You see all the items here. You got a significant amount of them already committed, funds wise. I did have relative to the senior services meals. I had a conversation with Ms. Prime, and we were looking at getting quotes. That's the threshold from the 10 to 50,000. So she'll be getting quotes on doing the meals through that 2-year period. So that way we have a contract in hand by December 31st.
Okay.
Moving on to police support and equipment. We are allowed to use the payroll through December 31st. For that officer, at that point, the police chief will be presenting to the Capital Improvements Committee, and he's confident. I had a conversation with him that he will have all contracts or orders in hand by December 31st. He just needs to present it to Capital, anything that meets that bylaw threshold. You see here, those 2 6-wheel dump trucks, this fire department forestry truck have been ordered. You heard the police chief on his report. Things are taking a while to come in. The senior center kitchen is not, because we don't have a contract in hand. You have in your attachment within your packet, the update from the architect who's trying to finish the plans for the kitchen. I'm hopeful to get that out to bid for the fall, so we could have a contract in hand by December 31st. But as of this moment, it has not been committed. ARPA administration, you see no there. Additionally, I think the board will also be able to recommit at least 5,500 of those funds, because we're not going to be using, since the spend plan the board already approved. And then moving on
I would recommend, if we wind up having money turned back, I know, Graceland said that, they had to stop at 50. So that's a potential to, get
Micro
extra.
grants.
Yeah.
They have 5 more micro grants.
She's got them, they're all stacked up.
I think we have.
She didn't stop receiving them. She just had to stop, dispersing.
Yeah.
So that could be an opportunity.
correct.
Okay.
And then TCTV funding, 20,000 of that in the budget has been committed to a position, TCTV full-time position. And then I had a conversation with Mr. Castle, And he's gonna have the other 15,000 for his capital, so I'd assume he's following the same route the police chief is taking in our discussions. That he'll be presenting the capital and putting in his 15,000 of improvements with one purchase over 10, whatever the bylaw is.
Okay.
So that's the update. When I started doing this, I thought it was very informative. I could see why the board wanted this.
Nice.
I only had 3 days to get it done, so it's a rough,
No,
very,
it's good.
very
It's a
rough.
good- The only thing that I think may be I'm not gonna say of great concern at this point, but still be of concern at this point would be the kitchen.
Yeah,
That would be the one that I think is probably
add a little bit of pressure.
yeah, that's the one that I think is of the greatest concern. The rest I feel like will be in a good place. That would be the one that I would be of the greatest concern about.
Yep.
before
And
December
I
31st.
thank you for bringing up Mr. Revard. If I may, Mr. Chair. Worst case scenario. We put it out to bid and we don't get any bids.
Yeah.
The board could still recommit those funds before December 31st.
Right.
So I will try to get that out, the bid in. Hopefully we get a bidder, but I do want to say, there's been times we put things out to bid and we didn't get a bidder.
Mhm.
And I don't want us to have potentially lose out on 150, so we want to recommit those funds.
In an upcoming meeting, let's talk about potential reprogramming some of the dollars. So if like the 5,000 that you were talking about, we can agree to say, yes, let's add that to the micro grant, or let's come up with a contingency if that kitchen, I'm very much hoping, as everybody else is, and Gail's probably watching going, you better give me my kitchen. But we should have a contingency plan in place, because I'd really like our execution of those funds to meet the timeline. Any other questions about ARPA?
Just one more thing, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And if you see spend for fiscal year 2024 was over the 750,000, so that will make us have an audit.
Okay.
Because we're over that threshold as well for fiscal year 24, just a note to the board.
Okay. Right. Any additional questions on ARPA before we move on?
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Lamontagne
Yeah,
for putting
thank
this
you.
together. I realize it was short notice, but I thank you for I thank you for working with the appropriate people to get that put together for us.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, item O is an Oscar. Discussion or update relating to 24 Holman Street. It's listed as Terry. And the EPA memorandum, the recommendation are in the packets. Mrs. Griffiths, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been struggling with this for a long time. I did go out and talk with Wing Chow. I'm gonna go backwards. I had my bullet points, but I'm going to, since my government email is public record, I just would like to read the most recent correspondence from Wing Chow to a concerned resident. Thank you for stopping by the site earlier today. As I indicated earlier, I was hoping to be able to gather more information to provide to you by responding to your emails. However, you requested that I respond to your email, even though I only have limited information at this point. I just want to provide some context on how my branch EPA removal program got involved. My understanding is that the town of Templeton had requested assistance from EPA's Brownfields program to conduct a targeted brownfields assessment at the Temple Stewart site. During the course of the brownfields assessment work, elevated levels of PCBs were identified in surface soils in certain areas. When these areas were identified, the EPA's Brownfields program refer the site to EPA's removal program for evaluation. EPA's removal program primarily addresses releases of or threat of releases of hazardous substances to the environment that pose an imminent and substantial endangerment to human health and environment. The removal program performs time-critical removal actions. I'm just going to skip down. The Phase 2 assessment report is a very comprehensive report and does take a significant level of effort to generate. The data set attached to this email will also be in Phase 2 report. I will work with Liz and Adam to post information regarding EPA's removal action, fact sheet, periodic updates when available in Phase 2 assessment report on the town's website so residents can easily obtain the information. My drop deads on the situation. I would, hopefully we could take the property through tax title, keep dirty industry out of Templeton, and maybe create and understand a zoning height bylaw. And now I'm gonna go backwards, because we did get an invitation to go out there, and I have also been talking to Lori, who brought up all the records from I think there's some as early as 1996, but 2002 mainly. And they're in her office for anybody that wants to access them. And one of the first things I noticed was an article in the Gardner News by Mr. Kitteridge that when this all came down, every select board member went out to that site for the first, when the EPA came out. Every select board member that was on the board went to that site for a tour and to hear what the EPA had to say. So, again, I may not run next year, which I probably am not going to, but I did go out this year and I didn't do it because I'm running. I did it. And this is what I said to Mr. Chow. I first asked him how to pronounce his name because I wanted to show him the respect he deserved. And that I told him that I had deep ties and concern for the people in our community, that we could actually think about poisoning that Baldwinville for a third time. This situation has kept me up at night, and I apologize. So my first question, if you look at the memorandum subject, request for a second removal action at the Temple Stewart site, Baldwinville, Worcester County, Massachusetts, action memorandum. And you skip forward to page 6. And, you know, I know everybody's gonna have questions. The second sentence, control of the property was remanded to the Mass DEP in the town of Templeton upon completion of the second removal action. Well, if this is the second removal action, then what does that statement mean? So my other concern was they've already been working on the site. If you look at page 3, section 4, sampling events performed by EPA's brownfields contractor in February, March, and September 2023 documented the presence of hazardous substances as defined by section, read it, okay? So if you go forward, and I need to get my notes out. I apologize. Page 9, which I know Mr. Chow is sincere about, is community relations. So that's on page 9, that we were supposed to be being informed of this whole situation. So I know he's going to work on that going forward. My other question is, who's going to oversee this from the town? They reference on page 10, greener cleanup. Page 11, safe removal. Who's going to oversee this? I mean, according to that email, I thought that this here, after reading it a couple times, was the plan, but then I see that there is an assessment report that's comprehensive that has to come out too. I would like to request this to be on the agenda going forward, and because it also says page 12, duration 9 months, and then they're putting in for the cost $1,920,000 for a total of $3,093,126. So I kind of would like to see this on the agenda for the next 9 months, or at least, I would like to see it on the agenda. I'd like frequent updates on what's going on over there. Part of the notes.
Well, if I could just, what is the status? So the agenda item, I thought you would give a status on it. Page
They were
13,
out there.
recommend that you approve the proposed removal action. Total extramural removal action project ceiling, if approved, will be 1.9 million.
That's not to us, though. That's EPA and this, I believe the
So was
state.
it approved?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I went out,
Mr. Lamontagne has some information.
If I may, Miss.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I'm meeting with the EPA tomorrow. If I could just have Terry join me on the call before we start putting them on the agendas, maybe that'll be helpful.
What
If I
time?
may, through the board. Allow Terry to join me on that call on Thursday.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a running, like, it doesn't need to be a running update unless there are changes or something.
if there's nothing to
substantial. I
report,
understand
there's
where you're
nothing to
coming
report.
from,
Also, a concern was they, in 2004, 113 residential soils were tested, 67 warranted removal. Some people wanted this soil tested, but it wasn't in the purview of the plan. They stuck to the plan. One refused testing and one had testing and refused removal. What happened to that
We're going through the
property?
same thing with PFAS right now, where people are refusing that action, so.
And-
By way of update or otherwise, from a data perspective, I do want to collect that information. It sounds like Lori's office is well aware of it from a health perspective. So if you're looking for who the belly button would be here, I think it's development services in Adam from a top level when speaking with, as they say here, extramural or agencies beyond Templeton.
And I do have two more things. Kudos to Adam. It says the site was acquired in 2022 by McValley Inc. from the town of Templeton, Massachusetts. He fixed that. It wasn't accurate. It was
That's correct.
by Love Valley.
Hmm.
And then it
The
was,
town never owned it.
right, town never owned it. And then again, I was led to believe that PCBs don't travel, but if you look on page 7, three times, PCB present a hazard to public health and the environment. Residential properties located near the site creates a significant threat of exposure to nearby residents. PCBs are hazardous substances defined by section 104.14 of CERCLA, 42 USC, section 9601.14 and 40 CFR, section 302.4. Due to the unsecured nature of the site, PCBs cannot be adequately contained and pose an exposure risk to trespassers and may migrate via heavy winds and rain to adjacent residential properties and groundwater. 3 times, 1 page, and I was told PCBs don't travel. I was led to believe. So that's what I took out of this. I don't know what the rest of the board took out of it. I do know that I wanted to bring it before the board because in 2006, all 5 board members were on, no pun intended, were on board, were interested, cared about residents in Templeton, and Baldwinville is Templeton.
Adam?
If I may, Chair, when I sent the report out to the board, Terry reached out to me. We had a discussion and was concerned if they start taking anything out of the site with dust or whatever, what kind of controls they have. And Wing, I had a nice pleasant conversation with Wing. And they're gonna have dust monitors there, and I had him coordinate with the water department for water measures. So when they're excavating anything, they're gonna have water controls to mitigate. So Terry's concerned about any type of traveling of particles. They're gonna do steps to mitigate any of that. So I mean, I think the very important part was Wing wanted the board to be aware of this, and by Terry bringing it forward, so the public's aware as well. And he had a conversation with me, and whatever we get from the EPA, we will put up on our webpage as well.
Okay.
So the public will be fully aware of this
Under
moving forward.
news or under health?
I was thinking under news and announcements.
Okay.
And
And what, so my question earlier was, what's in the packet says, should you approve it? Has the plan been approved?
I don't know who they are referring to. Has the plan been?
So I get it's gonna be 9 months. I get it's gonna be 1,500 cubic yards.
Approval Brian Olson, right there. It says approval Brian Olson.
I think that
Okay.
was for them.
Okay.
Yeah, it says approval Brian
What's an
Olson
expected
on the
start date?
recommendation.
What was it? What would be an expected start date?
They've already started mobilizing, Mr. Chair,
They
Okay,
started
For
the-
tests and otherwise, okay.
to prepare the site.
I don't know how to approach this and I don't want to break open meeting law, but I do believe I would like to see us take that property through tax title and get a good rein on it. And people in the past have been afraid that we'd be stuck with the cleanup, and that's not true. And I'm not going to go into detail now.
Adam
it's
can give
not
us an update. So yes, well, we can talk about this in a future meeting
Thank you.
about where that process stands, because I believe that's still in litigation for tax purposes. So we'll get an update on that as well. Does that
Great.
make sense?
Yep, I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay,
Mr.
so
Chair.
project status and status of any legal legal action that we have pending. Yes, Tim.
Just two quick comments.
Of course.
The question of taking the property in tax title. I'm not so sure. The property sold on 29 July 2021 for $275,000, according to the multiple listing system. Then on 9 September 22, it sold again for $617,143. And that is where we see the current ownership of that property sitting. Second comment, in a prior chapter of my life, I used to do environmental compliance work for the United States Air Force. I understand every one of the acronyms in here. I understand a whole bunch of this. The EPA stays involved because this is a Superfund site.
Agreed.
The statute of limitations is 50 years.
Mhm.
It started while we had the property in tax title here in town.
Mm.
So unfortunately, it stays with us.
Mhm.
Another, in the New England region, most of the closed military installations are in the very same boat, and it still falls back. Not only the federal government, but the communities who the town lost the property when bases were built, but they're still sitting and holding the bag. So we are not unique in this scenario.
Thanks,
just-
Tim.
Just to that point of tax taking, there was a Superior Court case in just May or April this year, 24, that the tax taking title thing of Massachusetts, that law is unconstitutional. And they're working on, the legislature is working on new language. So if you take, you owe 10 grand in taxes.
Yeah.
And they take your house and it's worth 300 grand.
You can't get the proceeds.
Right now, there's not, the law is still on the books where you can take the money and keep it, but the DLS is not opposed. And kind of recommends that you take that excess cash and you put it in a fund to hold on to it, because if the law changes, they can come,
Mhm.
you want to keep that money available, because you have to give it back to them. So that's another thing where it's tax title taking, and keeping all the money is, it's about like
Yeah.
almost no more. So it's almost not advantageous to, unless you take it, sell it, and then you hand over the money, the rest of it. It's,
This is
Yeah.
it
Okay.
sounds like I'm cutting you off. It sounded like you were in, but what I do want to say, from a legal standpoint, this is a public meeting. It can be replayed in a court of law or otherwise. We're not even close to that. I said, and Terry, if you noticed why or how I did this, it's not a discussion of tax taking or otherwise. We can't
Right.
start saying. what
That's
our
why I
intent-
said I didn't.
Intent is, but we can have an update of what legal action we have going on right now, so we're at least aware. I
Mhm.
don't want to start, there's a word for it. It's not scheme. If you start to plan against something,
Right.
that could not be good for us in a court of law. So I want to make sure that the board understands, you got to take it step by step. We're talking about cleanup. That's what the update you gave. That's why you went and looked. I understand the future part of it and what whoever you're talking with, because you're saying a concerned citizen or otherwise, to allay their issues, to be able to understand that the board is also forward looking, but we also have a legal responsibility to protect. If that makes sense to you. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I just was questioning, because you didn't see any language in here. It says they're following the Superfund laws, but doesn't say it's a Superfund site. So I
No,
do have
but
other questions.
Tim's 100%. It does say it in here
Yeah.
that that's the history of it. In the abstract in the beginning, it's talking about all the way from when they were making furniture and otherwise, American tissue. That language is clear in there. It is the history and why this is polluted, why the concrete slab is more polluted than the other items. Believe me, I read the same thing as well. I didn't have to go down and speak to Win. This was a comprehensive report that I understood fully. So we will keep our ear to the rail and as it permits and it's and there's necessity, we'll make sure that we talk about it in a meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or any other discussion, I should say? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Adam. Keep us honest on that one. Or aware, I should say. Honest and aware. The last three items, P, Q, and R are for Mr. Bennett, so I'll let you take those in order. And feel free if you take your time with them, or if you want to table any of them, it's up to you.
The first one is town property use.
Yep.
And I put this on a discussion because per our operating procedures, when you're talking about policy, it has come before the board at least once. And frankly, I didn't have the time to procure a bunch of proposed changes and stuff and get it
Okay.
all to the board electronically in the time frame and stuff. So I just wanted
Let's table
to,
that one.
and I tried to be specific enough in the agenda item so that if board members wanted to do some looking, they would kind of have at their hands what I was talking about. So the town property use, I would propose to get rid of all of the fees, because it seems like a lot of times it's an entity, a charity, a business or something, whether it's in town or out of town, and the benefit goes to them, the town sponsored event and waive the fee. And I just think the residents pay enough fees already. Keep the policy in place for when you want to use stuff, so we don't have three people showing up, at the same place at the same time, and we have a disagreement. So I would propose to eliminate all of the fees. And secondly, to some of the language, clean up the policy a little bit for Templeton resident or Templeton business or non-resident or out of town business. It says in all of those headings, any person who resides in the town of Templeton and its villages. I mean, if you live in the town of Templeton, you live in Templeton. If you get your mail down here at the East Templeton post office and zip code, you're still in the town of Templeton. So I think we could clean that up and eliminate the village stuff. Because if you're a resident of the town or you're not a resident of the town, there's no town of Otter River or Baldwinville or East Templeton legally. It's the town of Templeton, or the Templeton Board of Selectmen, or a select board, however you wish to
Yeah,
put it.
this, right, the state knows us as Templeton.
And also I would just like to note, and I think I mentioned this before when we created the Parks and Recreation Commission, we might have to revisit this, because Mass General Law, Chapter 45, Section 1, under definitions. In this chapter, town shall not include city. In this chapter, park shall include a city, and I don't know why it says city if it says it shall not include city, but this is the government. Or town common dedicated to the use of the public or appropriated to such use without interruption for a period of 20 years. And that's been the Templeton Common for way over 20 years. So that's something I think to clarify and to meet with the Parks Commissioners at some point in time for this board to understand that. I understand the bylaw says the town is, the Board of Selectmen are responsible for town property and this and that, but we, some of these things need to, maybe it's just an agreement to agree on do things this way, that way, whomever, jointly or whatever, but again, I'm just admin and finance, I believe needs to be, John Columbus was selectman and he stated that at a meeting. He said, most important things we do is budget and finance, and I 100% agree. And those are the things that kind of got the town in, messed up, trouble, however you, whatever adjective you want to say. So, I would probably be asking for this at another meeting for possible action or suggestions, input from the board members.
Yeah, Jeff, do you want to write the proposed changes?
I can do that
Okay.
and send that out electronically. No problem.
Adam,
I think Matt had his hand up before.
Matt,
I was just wondering if, pursuant to the town property use policy of elimination of all fees through you, Mr. Chair, to the town administrator, how difficult would it be to come up with how much we collected in fees off the town property, the town use property for fiscal year 24?
Not difficult.
Okay,
it's on the revenue.
if we could just come up with that number and report it back, that'd be great.
In our budget.
I was just gonna say, I would expect it to be minimal and there would be
Alignment.
very little impact on the budget, but I just would like to know that,
not-
that's all.
Not big, but it's.
Yeah. I would just like to know the number, that's all.
It's,
So, yeah, it's this discussion. Go ahead, Adam.
I think what would help Mr. Bennett too, we could send the Word document to him and then he could just click track changes.
Mhm.
So that way it'll be easier instead of drafting it all from scratch. All you could just send that off to you. If you're, unless you want to write it all up, but you're looking at
Oh, no,
changing.
I would just go, I
Okay.
don't reinvent the wheel. I just go there, copy it, stuff it in a Word document and then boom, boom, boom. I'm not real tech savvy, but I can do a couple of things. So that was my, like I said, I tried to be specific in the description. And those are the highlights of that, of what I wanted to discuss with the board and put it out there and everybody can
Okay.
come up with their own conclusion at a later date.
No, that's not only does it give us time to think through those things, like you said, but when we change it to possible action, we'll be prepared. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. This will be, and part of my reasoning for putting the select board operating procedures, when I got elected, I went back after the town election, I went back and started looking at the agendas of past meetings. And I noticed this item changing to the meeting agenda and town announcements was posted on the agenda for both April meetings, and they were both tabled. And at the second meeting, it's the minutes say table to a future meeting. And I know there was, chairman made, the commitment that he would track items from meetings to meetings, and I believe that's even in, one of the goals to keep up.
Yeah.
Tracking what we do, what we plan on doing, and I believe, tabled items
Mhm.
fall into that category. Like, you're gonna table something, were you gonna table it for 10 years? I mean, so what I looked at was, on the agenda to have something in there specifically for policies and, for hearings, when we're gonna have a hearing. And last meeting, and I understand Matt was acting as the chairman, I understand why he did it. But it didn't go as quick as if things would have went quick, then we had people sitting here for a hearing, and the policy says the hearing will be held at the beginning of the meeting or close thereto. And I think maybe that's language we could clean that, take that out of there, or put that a public hearing will be, first item on the agenda. Again, it usually involves, some reticent citizens or business, and we should take care of them first and then take care of our business, town business. Put the residents, citizens, or the businesses first. As far as the agenda goes, under section 3, availability of the meeting packet. And that's on page 4 of the policy, of the procedures policy. It says now that board members, the information will be transmitted to board members electronically no later than 5 p.m. on Friday preceding the meeting. Well, town hall's not open on Friday. So do we have somebody sitting at home working off the clock, working on overtime, or what?
No, that's no later than, the way that you read it, it's a no later than date.
Right. But if I don't have it by close of business Thursday and it's sent to me on a Friday, who's working on Friday when town hall is closed? I just think there should be
No, the logic of what you said. makes sense.
close of business on Thursday, or by, a certain time on Thursday.
Or you could say what does it say? Close of business on the last duty day of the week.
Yeah, it just says board electronically no later than 5 p.m. on Friday preceding the meeting. So, where was my
The
packet? Yeah,
working day of.
Town hall working day, yeah.
yeah, close of business
Of
on
the
last
prior
business
week.
day or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that I believe we need within our procedures is the agenda and minutes. We should be, I know we've already had I can think of 3 sets of minutes off the top of my head. I believe it was, I forget how long it was, but I remember there was a meeting, Selectman Toth saw something in the minutes and he said his words were the minutes were light. And we've had 2 sets of minutes this year where it says this person was there, see video. See video does not concur with the open meeting law. Which is why, and again, if the minutes aren't right and someone files a complaint, it doesn't come to Steve Castle or Adam Montaigne or, it comes to the Board of Selectmen. We're the ones that's in the hot seat responsible for minutes being produced and recorded in accordance with the open meeting law. And if it's has to, supposed to have a summary where the average person can look at it and know what was talked about, then we should put something in here to ensure that I am the clerk and I'm going to sign the minutes. We should have a thing in here that this is how the minutes have to be done and this is what needs to be in there. Because to me, that's what a policy or procedure manual is. What is done, who does it, how it has to be, it outlines how it has to be done. And we've had several examples of minutes that don't meet the requirement of the law. And we are the ones that are going to get the notice and have to deal with it.
Where do you, what section is that? So you would
Well,
like,
there's,
you'd like to see a more prescribed minute?
yes,
So
on
what
page
section?
7, section 13, it says minutes of the meeting.
Okay,
And I've also looked at my town government and seen, and I believe I put town website on. Yes. Not available. Does that mean they haven't been approved? They weren't done? I know they don't have to be posted on the website, but if you, go there and you see some are done and then there's some aren't. Well, what does that mean?
That should,
And then that's,
that
the
should-
you know, the town website.
that should
is
prompt a phone
posting,
call.
You know. I mean,
If you're
but,
looking for that information, you're coming at it under. You're looking for something, not performing an audit. If that makes sense to you.
oh, it
like
makes
you-
sense to me, but like I said, the meeting minutes need to be done according to the open meeting law.
But if there's a reason why it says not available because the,
Well, that's what I mean. And these are, I mean, I'm not talking about last week. I'm talking about a year ago.
oh, I know, I
You know, Why are they
very
not,
much understand what you're saying.
why are they not there?
Yeah.
All the other minutes are there, then you get not available, then minutes available, minutes available. It's gotta be some consistency in our administration. So there's, like I said, there's somewhere in here have either a checklist or the excerpt of the open meeting law that covers the requirements
Yep.
of the minutes.
I'm following
You
you.
know, to be in there.
I'm following you. I'm taking all the notes. Like,
So,
unless I really don't understand what you're saying, I'm writing it down and I know what to do with them.
so again, there's just, you know, some language. Also under section 2. Agenda request and discussion materials. It says if the material is deemed insufficient, the administrator may defer the placement of the item upon the agenda. I believe that should be the chairs, which, and again, this is in my opinion, and throwing this out here just as discussion for the board to look and research and.
Okay, so
and
I'll look at the
commit. Thank you.
language of agenda item sufficiency. I understand what you're saying.
Right, and I believe it should be the chair's decision.
Yeah.
Uh,
Adam and I
yeah.
have a very good back and forth. We understand agenda items, but for what you just read, that we don't have that kind of discussion. So the language should more closely go through that process. I understand what
You
you're
know,
saying.
again, because you might not always be here. Adam might not be
Yep.
here forever. And this, again, this is a procedure. So a selectman comes on board and reads this and boom. So
Okay.
there's
I've got
an
it.
attempt at continuity.
I agree.
Because and I think there's, you know, a lack of that. It's like the tracking stuff.
Mhm.
You know, the board's made decision before and a new selectman comes on and he don't know what happened before they got on, or she, or, you know, whoever.
It has a lot to do with the device as well. So you and I are gonna have to sit down.
So that was my my quick and dirty for the operating procedures.
So that's item Q. I have a lot there, so I will,
I can.
you and I can work on that. I wrote it down. I have, like I said, I understand, I have a really good understanding of where you're coming from and what you're looking for. I can put some stuff together and share it with you to say, yeah, that's exactly what I want, or no, I was thinking more if it was gonna be tweaked, and then we can bring it back to the board. So I appreciate it.
No problem.
And then, item R.
Financial management policy. This I did. The funding of the reserve fund. And there is a section in there. On page 13. In the finance covering the covering the funding of the reserve fund and how it will be done. For reasons. I don't recall off the top of my head. I think it was, we did a level funded budget in 23. Because in fiscal 22, the reserve fund was funded at 50,000. In fiscal 23, it was funded at 40,000. in 24, and it was funded at 47.5, and then in fiscal 25, it was funded in 50,000. In the financial management pay policy, it notes 0.75% of the budget, minus minus debt, and et cetera. And again, I would just like to see us, because last year the reserve fund was zeroed out. With 2 transfers towards the end of the year out of it, so, 40,000, 50,000, it sounds like, oh, that's, more money. And it is, until some big ticket items come up, and it's one of the few places we have that, you can take care of an emergency. So my thought, well, one idea that I have was, and I've spoke about this before, a while back, use free cash to increase the reserve fund towards the period of time when you should need it, after the second quarter. Because if you gotta pop the reserve fund in, September, well, you got some budgeting problems. Which, to do that approach would mean you would have to revisit the free cash distribution and the percentages, which is another thing to deal with. But I think that the reserve fund, and if you increase it with free cash, it would also, it's possible to use less tax appropriation at annual town meeting, and instead of doing 50, put like 20 or 25 there. And again, you have to adjust the policy, and then add to it from free cash. And if it doesn't get used, then it just increases the following year's free cash. It would free up some budget money. We could still have a good reserve. We could actually still meet the requirement of the percentage of the budget, but it would free up some money from taxation or local receipts or et cetera.
That's a great idea.
Then on the meals tax. Looking at it as it was sold to town meeting or presented to town meeting, that it was going to be used specifically for capital, and when it was first approved, it did pay for a lease of a cruiser and a 1-ton truck for the highway department. There is a way, it has to go town meeting vote, would be to create a special stabilization fund for the meals tax revenue to be placed, and that would be for
You're
the
talking about
lease cruiser. And then town meeting would have
To
to vote
codify
also to, appropriate the meals tax revenue that you can watch quarterly from the DLS. It's just go online and you can see how much you can track it.
So the benefit of knowing you for so many years, that I know where this is coming from. So basically what you're recommending is that we codify
Right.
in policy where those meal tax.
Right, just to think that, you tell town meeting or you ask
I
town
know.
meeting for something,
I've
and then
heard you say it many times.
The infield groomer thing, the big, they appropriate, if you ask for something and town meeting gives it to you, then dang it, you should do that. Because when you go ask for a big ticket item, like debt exclusion, and I said, well, you did
like
do
to see
this,
what-
this,
yeah.
this, and this,
I understand.
I
I knew you were gonna say it earlier when we were talking with the chief about that, so.
and
I
like
think
I
it's-
said,
Let's look at that. Let's
his
look at what
maintenance
the
budget
impact is.
drops, which is will free up some money, for other things, because you're not spending it on fixing old stuff. And it just, and it does, it's a hard thing initially to do because but if you're using the meals tax in the budget and you take it out, you gotta adjust your budget because you're gonna have 75, 77,000, whatever it is, right now, less money in the general fund. However, it would take pressure off the free cash, the capital, it just, you know,
On that, Adam, could I ask you and Kelly just to come up with a projection and impact if we were to codify meals tax in kind of in accordance with that, what was understood from that town meeting vote, if we were to codify it by policy to have meal taxes, whether it's going to a special fund or otherwise, I just want to know what the impact is, because those numbers have changed from what the projections were. You know, when it was first, hey, let's do a meals tax because we need to pay for this cruiser. That was back in what, 2020?
18.
Those were $18. And that was prior to COVID. That was prior to whatever income the town is getting from a very robust and delicious restaurant.
But
But I'd like to see what the
it
impact
was
is.
like 48,000 back then.
Yeah.
Now we're approaching 77.
I know, and it's, like I said, delicious. It's going up.
So, and
Not
as
trying to
a
be funny,
follow-up
it's
to
true.
the capital stabilization and funding capital from capital stabilization rather than directly from free cash. And again, this would be need to adjust the free cash percentages to fund the reserves, which would fall in line with recommendations twice from the DOR in our financial reviews, to build up that stabilization fund where, and yeah, it's getting harder because we used to buy you could get a pickup 1 ton for 80 grand, and now it's 160. So I mean, it's just, but everything's going that way. If we could build up the balance and then we could pay as we go and try to wean ourselves off of leases, which is just debt that you put a budget together, you gotta, I need 50 grand for that lease, or I need 90 grand. And that's 90 grand I can't use to have another police officer. I mean, just so, and again, this would be, you know, you may have to put off some capital items for a year to build that up, but I think going forward, if we look at it, and it's not something I don't think we do like this year, but
Let's take a
we
look.
have to
I agree
start
with you.
planning, because like you said, you want to look at the highway to this. Well, to me, this is how we're gonna get there, or a way to get there. The next thing was grants, and I know I mentioned this to you before. And it says, and I know this policy was written before we had a grant administrator. Because it says that, you know, the town administrator will, you know, all town officials receiving a grant will inform the town administrator of grants. All town officials applying for grants shall inform the town administrator of application and process. I believe there's either remove the town administrator or add grant administrator in there. As well as a process of when you're applying for a grant, when you don't walk in the door and say, hey, Graceland, I want a grant for 50,000 because we're going to do this and I found this. Well, then she's going to do a whole lot of work, and there's only one, and she's learning on the job. Let's be honest. She did, she didn't do this for 20 years before she came to work at Templeton.
Correct.
So, and I don't want this like a feeding frenzy or overwhelmed where, you dump somebody, all the departments go in there and dump 30 grants, and then she's got to go find out, well, will this actually qualify for that use? Is there a match from the town,
Mhm.
you know, the people looking for grants, and just do a little legwork, like, okay, this grant will pay for this and there's no match, or, you know, there's a 10% match or a
Basic
10%
research
match.
is what you're talking
something
about. Yeah.
To help her out
Mhm.
and be a little more organized.
Mhm.
And again, we didn't really have nothing in the grants, and we talked about it at one meeting, so, okay, we're gonna put like a little process in here, then we have a grant administrator, grant writer, grant administrator, and I think we just need to adjust this. For clarity's sake, to help out the board, to help the grant writer out, and to be, you know, a little more organized, and she could spend time filling out a grant instead of doing all the legwork when, you know, a department head or entity could, get some details. So, hey, I'm applying for this grant, and oh, by the way, the town has to come up with 10 grand, you know, to match this 80 grand or 50 grand, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Just to, I think, to help it out and spend more time writing grants and stuff instead of all the research. It'd be different if there was, you know, 3 people in that office, you know, doing that, but just one. The next is concerns the audit, which is on page 21. And right now, it reads that the town shall endeavor to have the audit completed prior to January 1 of each year. And this year, we got the audit a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. As a matter of fact, the audit stated that we had this much money in general stabilization, because when he did the audit, it was after town meeting that we took 400 and some thousand out, you know, out of that. So actually, we got a report that really didn't correctly reflect the financial condition of the town.
Well, it's
So-
a snapshot in time. I mean, I understand it's not meant to be a real-time report.
Well, we should strive to be more timely than a year after the fact. And it's right up there.
Agreed on a year, because it happens every year.
Right up to even including the annual town report.
So you're talking about like planning it at a better time to assess fiscal health?
And put hard language in there, like, you know, it's gotta be done by this time. I don't know why it took, I think it was out in April and then presented to the board in June. I don't know why the audit can't be completed sooner. Which is part of the reason why I suggested or thought of that, we should have a municipal finance calendar where we have hard dates. Where, you know, we tell the finance, hey, this needs to get done by this date and this date, and we want to see this date on this date, not when I get to it. Because
Isn't that the
you know,
countdown to town meeting?
That's,
I mean, that gives me a good, that's more fiscal than it is.
but that doesn't say you'll have the free cash done by this time,
Mr. Chair,
the balance sheet will be this time. The DLS has a sample calendar of when things should get done by, like, you know,
I hear what you're
tax
saying.
bills need to go out by December 31st, or residents don't have, if they don't get their tax bill until January 2nd, they don't have to pay it till May. That's the importance of the tax recap sheet getting done in time to set the tax rate, to set the tax bill, so we don't have to go short-term borrowing. Because,
Mr. Chair,
and it shouldn't be hard to get these reports done in a timely manner if all our reporting and our books are in great order.
Sorry.
is it possible to just get a 5-year overview of the cycle of that when those reports were done? To see the trend, if there was a trend, if it was always toward the beginning of the year and then somehow it switched or something. And I do think cyclical is important. I know Adam operates on cyclical,
You're talking
a
about like
cyclical calendar.
audits were completed.
Yeah, maybe a 10-year cycle, just to see if there was if, a chart,
What is that going to give you?
information on potentially dates to have it done by. Or how it flies, how it flows. Right? If you know how it flows, then you may see, more. Either it was always on in January or February, and then all of a sudden it changed. You don't know what you're gonna find when you look at it, but you may get some information as far as what's a good time to have it done by.
I think, what I would like to see happen is Light and Water have the same auditing firm we have. And I think that would relieve a lot of the challenges that we're faced with, at least since I've been the town administrator and even before me. So I think I need to have that conversation with John, the general manager of our Light and Water, and see if I could. At least I'll be on one auditing firm.
And piggybacking on that comment. I believe part of the problem with getting the audit in is also the fact that Light and Water is on a different schedule than the rest of the town
That too.
entities are. Town entities are all on the government's fiscal calendar, which is July 1 to June 30.
Senior center.
Light and Water's on the actual calendar year, January 1 to December 31st. So that's, I believe, also part of the problem in that we can't get the audit back until Light and Water's audit comes back, and they can't perform their audit until they close their books on December 30. That's also part of the problem. I don't know if that's something that can be easily remedied in order to get them onto the same calendar as everybody else, because then all of a sudden the audits could be more aligned in that respect as well.
So we're talking about hard dates and efficiency of when they occur. Okay.
And lastly, for the financial management policy are the financial reports, and really important is the monthly, because the April BVA didn't come out till May 22nd. The May BVA was June 17th. Why? And at one time, this was talked about, because the advisory committee requested, and Carter came to a meeting when he was here, and it was agreed on, nothing in high date, but they were gonna shoot for like the 10th. 10 days into the month, we would get the report, and they started coming regular, and then, I mean, the 22nd, that was after town meeting, it's,
So
you can't look at the
Alan,
report.
if you could get an answer for those two reports specifically, but from a policy perspective, what would be your recommendation? Is to again, put a hard date, like they must be done.
The second,
the goal.
the second Wednesday.
I'm sorry, I don't have it in
or,
front of me. I don't
you
know what it already says, but.
Or a Tuesday or whatever. Again, this is the board's policy.
Yep.
We're responsible for budget. And policy, administration. I mean,
Yeah,
it's almost
agree.
like, well, whenever we get the report, we get it. Fine, no biggie.
It'd just be,
we've discussed that, yeah.
and just be
and
careful
other-
with the language of it though, because like you said, second Tuesday, sometimes the second Tuesday is the 8th, sometimes the second Tuesday is the 14th. So, I mean, I would put if we're gonna say it, I would say,
I'm
the
sure
14th or
this, yeah,
something like
like
that,
the
you know?
semantics for what we talked about earlier, last working day of the week prior, so. So we can look at both of those.
give them an equal target on each monthly basis to hit, rather than that's something that.
Something specific,
Yep.
so it's
Mhm.
not all over the place. And at the last meeting, you saw the importance of it
Mhm.
when, the revolving funds were
Finance account.
overspent. And how do you check that if you don't have the report?
Mhm.
It's.
Yep.
It would have been nice to have the April one at pre-town meeting, but I know it was May 2nd, but at least could have went into town meeting and had it in your hand. speaking as somebody who was on the advisory committee then, I just, again, budget and administration, and we just spent 400-something thousand out of stabilization to pay a regular recurring expense, the school assessment. The last time we took money out of stabilization to pay a regular occurrence, I think it was 2010, it was to pay the Worcester County Regional Retirement System. That's a pretty sad state of affairs. We took, I don't know, about a decade and a half or so to repeat. I don't want to go down the hill. I want.
It took me months
That's
to
it.
be able to explain the path to that, and I don't want just like 30, 30 seconds or less to destroy all of the work that we did with a lot of committees, but I understand what you're saying. It's the structure and awareness of how you are performing it, and that, in that spirit, that's what I've got a lot here. Some of the things I'm gonna have to defer to the financial management teams to see what they think about efficiency of audit or otherwise. I think that you pull a little bit more. I mean, Adam started to talk about it, Matt started to talk about it, but I think it's worth having that discussion to say, is there an opportunity there? I also like to characterize it like, out of the 3 areas that you brought, but specifically to financial management policy, you're basically, you know, in the world of risk management, you're saying we have a lot of risk, and you know, the last meeting, and I'm fully up on last meetings. There was a lot of acceptance of risk when it didn't need to be.
Mhm.
We were well extended over what we were trying to do. What I'm trying to say, all out of these risks that you're identifying, what are the opportunities to be able to mitigate them so that we do not get into hot water again? I took down a lot of stuff.
I can send you, well, actually.
Well, in the spirit of it, you did a good job of explaining it. I think a lot of the stuff, I can work on it. The financial management policy stuff is definitely to be collaborative discussion to try and do some data mining, check other programs, how things nest together.
And what we can work on, what we can work on a little bit more easily. I'm more than happy to work with you and Jeff on to get those things done.
If each person wants to have one, I could send it out electronic copy. Anyway, the other, the
Now,
last,
let's keep it between you and I, and then we, for action and otherwise, then I can share it.
the last thing I wanted to talk about was, the annual town report. We put something in the financial management policy, and we would have to, look at the town bylaw regarding the annual town report again. You used to get it when you went to vote, and then you went to town meeting, so you didn't have a long time, but at least you had, you had some time, but then they flipped the dates and the bylaw got left, so you're getting the annual town report. Again, that's a report I think that can come earlier. February or March. Because right now, there's no reason that committees can't be, I mean, like, turn in your stuff for the annual town report or have it ready to send. Get the audit before March. The annual town report out to people before March. So we have all of this stuff before the next budget comes out. Anybody who wants to look, get an idea of the financial condition of the town previous, before you start looking at another budget, spending money, at least you can say, oh, yeah, well, did this, this, and this. Okay, we're gonna spend this, this, and this on there, and it's transparency and openness and accountability in spending other people's money. After the last meeting, I don't have a lot of confidence in financial reports. You talk, the opera money in April was spent, a highway drainage thing was 132%. And then it's fixed in May. because what, a secretary hit the wrong code? Well, who has responsibility to ensure that well, that shouldn't have been signed off on. If it wasn't charged to the right account, it shouldn't have been processed.
Yeah, let me see what I can do with what you got tonight. And then we, again, I might not have it for the next meeting. I'll have it back. All right, thank
Again,
you.
I just think that, like I said, the budget and finance, and there's a lot of things that, I just think some things should have some hard dates, and we should tell employees, hey, this is the task that, need to be completed by this time. Because again, I've said this before, employees leave the employment of Templeton and they go work someplace else, and I hear two things from multiple employees in different jobs and stuff. I didn't realize how good the benefits were in Templeton and this new place. Yeah, I make more money, but somebody comes in and tells me, we gotta have this done by this schedule, you gotta have this done by that schedule, and it's just important that I for a lot of reasons. Most importantly, so the residents can try to have confidence, and when you go ask them for a big thing, well, they're doing all these little detailed stuff right, and the finance stuff is coming out in time. We won't hear complaints about the annual town report wasn't on time according to the bylaw. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, just for insurance. I make a motion to go past 10 o'clock. In order to finish regular business, and like I said, just for insurance, I'm hoping we don't need it. I'm hoping we don't need it. I'm just making the motion for insurance.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion seconded. Hearing no further comments on the motion to go past 10 o'clock. How do you vote, Tim?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Yes.
No. I told you I was gonna vote no. That passed. One no. We are to old business, action related to TV exterior sign request at Scout Hall. We've got Steve with us here, and the last page in your binder has a mock-up that we had asked him to provide before any board member comments. I'm gonna let Steve go ahead and make a presentation.
I'll try not to go past 10.
Yes.
No.
Just-
I'll
this
be
should
very,
take 5
I'll
minutes.
be very
10
brief. So we'd just like to have a simple sign on, at the front door of Scout Hall at the side, where there is 3 feet between the metal molding of the door and the shutter. So we're just like maybe up to a 2-foot by 2-foot sign, just by our logo, TCTV, and show people where we are. And so they know that they've come to the right place. And we're also talking with the scouts about putting their logos on as well. Mr. Kaplis had no problem with that. And the Central Mass Director has also been informed of that, and the Girl Scouts have been invited, and they are discussing it. And Hannah is in touch with them. So what I propose is that, we have a simple sign with maybe a light wooden frame around it, and so that we can remove, say, a side and put in another sign and print it. And I'm hoping to get a nice photo printer for that purpose, so we can take it, get some foam board printed and have acrylic on the outside and make it weatherproof.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
I'm in favor of putting a sign. I think all I would like to see is your logo and something denoting that it's the town studio.
Mhm.
Either public studio or town studio with TCTV. I don't think we don't need to brand the Scouts. We don't need to brand Montechusett TV. I think I'm in favor of a sign that's clean, says what else is what else is under that roof. So it's Scout Hall and it's got the town studio in it. And I think the TCTV logo on it is fine. That's my feeling. Other board members?
I'll echo that sentiment, Mr. Chair. I looked at the proposal, it's like, first thing I saw here, it's, okay, TCTV's requesting it. I know Steve is deeply entrenched and ingrained with Montechusett TV and the digital app. I looked at this like a 7x19 on cable. We have everything so tightly twisted, like a triple helix DNA. We need to peel back the layers of the onion. TCTV is our town entity. It's a town department. I have no business putting that on them. And I agree with you. The Scout logos are nice. The building's already identified as Scout Hall. Up until the last 9-10 years, everybody knew that was Scout Hall. It's where the Scouts are meeting. That really hasn't changed. So I would have to agree with you. I can support TCTV. I can't support the other entities.
How about town studio or public studio?
Is that necessary? It's TCTV and we're saying Templeton Community Television.
Okay.
Go to Gardner and the front building going down now. I think it's Sherman Street. The sign is now gone. The one in Fitchburg, FCTV or FOTV. Yeah, Fitchburg Access. That's all it is, just the letters.
The only reason I said that is because everyone knows that TCTV is a thing. He's got a closet here, he's got a warehouse over there, he's kind of all over the place, but like this is specific. It's the studio, and it's public. So again, in doing all of the research and otherwise, and I know so much more about cable TV and public access than I ever wanted to know within this last year. That P and PEG, it's so important for people to know. Again, like I think I used Justice as an example in one of the meetings. If Justice was a fly fisherman and he wanted to do a half-hour show on fly fishermen, did he know that he actually could go to you and say, hey, I'd love to do a fly fishing show? He could go to the studio and do that. If you say, and I'm not advocating, I'm just, again, throwing it out there in terms of what is a good sign. Public studio or town studio, TCTV, they're like, we had a public studio. Any other thoughts? Or, I'm sorry, will you finish? Oh, okay.
Good point. Well taken.
I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think that Montechusett TV and the digital app, and I don't think those need to be there. I think that the sign that's already above Scout Hall, that's very clearly Scout Hall, I think I think is quite sufficient and looks very, very nice there. I still think you're gonna get more, traffic, as it were, by having a sign on the island on the road as opposed to actually on the building. I think that's gonna be too far away and not gonna be.
This is mainly for just identification. When you pull in and you're going in the front door, you know where you are. That's all.
So, and like I said, I still am against putting more signs on that historic building than are necessary. So I still would feel better if it was on the island somewhere, but I mean, the decluttered version as to what is here, like I agree with everyone else that
The island.
keep it simple, keep it simpler. We don't need that you're your TCTV. We know your studio is in there. Keep it simple and have TCTV be on there. The rest of it, I don't think is necessary, or I think it makes the sign just too loud at that point. I think it just needs to be TCTV and have that be it.
The island just seems disembodied from the building. It's got the trees that
And it's not readily available,
Yeah, and
working.
the notification. So to put something out there that basically saying that the building behind it is where TCTV is, I agree with everything you said, except for trying to put something on the island, because it just feels like it's disembodied.
In some regard,
It's also actually technically a monument park.
Right.
And
Mm.
it just, I don't think advertising sign needs to be next to that.
over there.
Yeah, it's-
Mr.
I
Chair,
agree. Yes, go ahead.
in some regard, narrowing down the content of the sign and having TCTV in big letters kind of appeals to me, because I'm so proud of TCTV, and it would be eye-catching to me if TCTV in big bold letters were, the focus of the sign. Not that I, and I do like Montechusett, and I do like Digital Lab. I like the second one if that would have been my choice. But I do think it was too much takeaway from the actual TCTV studio, TCTV entity.
I hear it.
Okay, Jeff, do you have any thoughts on the sign? Everyone's kind of. spoke
Yeah,
about
I
it,
would,
Trying to give them a little bit of guidance.
it's a government, entity, town department. And I understand the Montechusett TV, and I understand all of that, but, I don't think you need to be advertising other entities on, a town building or a department sign. Just. Again, I get why they want Montechusett TV on there, but.
Are you saying, you're saying no sign?
No, the sign with
Okay.
TCTV, Templeton's thing, but the other stuff. No, I think in this case, less would be more.
Okay.
Mm. My question is, would there be availability to post some of that stuff elsewhere?
What?
Would there be a availability to post Montechusett TV inside the building somewhere? How to,
We will be promoting Montechusett TV
in Digital Lab?
everywhere. So, and in a couple of years, you may want it on the building.
Revisit.
You
this
just,
then.
yeah. I understand the question, Terry, but I would slow roll that. I mean, if you saturate that building,
Right away.
I don't want
That's
you to
fine.
do
We'll
that. Yeah.
put TCTV, Templeton Community Television on it.
Could you do this for us? Could you come up with a final mock-up of just TCTV?
Mm-hmm.
And so like basically reproduce what you've done there, just TCTV. And kind of superimpose it so we can see the size. 'Cause, when Terry says big letter, I want to see what does that actually look like? Because we could actually have that discussion to say, "Ugh, scale that down.
You can
by
take a
20%."
shot of the building and put it right on.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Show
you
you the
do,
scale,
yeah,
yeah.
I understand, but it gives us a good scale. And would you also do a mock-up where you put like, either town studio
Yep.
or public studio?
Yep.
So we can see both, and then we'll consider that as a final, and then we can vote.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Great.
Perfect. Yeah. Board member comments.
All set?
Yes, thank you. Really appreciate you hanging with us.
Two quick ones. I'll be very brief. First one, just general info for everybody. If you need postage stamps, buy them this week. They're currently 67 cents. It's going up a nickel at the end of the week, 73 cents for a first class stamp. That includes the cost of the forever stamps. If you have forever stamps, they're still good. The second thing I have real quick, I would like to see an update on what we're doing completing the downstairs at the Senior Community Center. I know there were 2 areas framed in to be bathroom, locker room type things. And we never did finalize what we were gonna do for the shelter. And I know part of this all hinges, we looked a couple years ago at a grant for that emergency shelter. We've used it as a cooling center a couple of times now. But what would we have done if the power went out? I'm just throwing it out there. And I know Rich Curtis from EMD has told us they couldn't get the grant because the building was not yet complete. So it's kind of like cart before the horse, but I'd just like to see a good update. Now, I'm willing to work with Rich on that.
Okay. I copied it down, and thank you for that.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. You yield back your time. I'm only making a joke. Of course you can have.
No,
You're good. Matthew.
Going back to Stuart's report this evening, I am very happy to see that NRHS participates with has a Arrive Alive program, and I saw the display of the cars out front of NRHS before their their senior activities. The reason I bring it up is because, on July 8th of 2003, I lost my sister in a car accident in Gardner. She was 17 years old. So it's not just about drunk driving, it's also about speeding, it's also about not knowing the roads that you're driving on. My sister, was on a road that they call Roller Coaster Road in Gardner. Up and down hills, curves. She was driving too fast, and unfortunately, it was something that like, no one ever wants to have happen to them. So I would just say to our younger folks, our newer drivers, just be smart and be safe. Don't feel like you have to do anything that someone else tells you to do. If you feel like it's not a safe thing, if you feel like it's not something you should be doing, then the likelihood is you're probably right. So just keep that in mind and have a safe and, and a good summer. And if anything, just be mindful, because I think that, I mean, ever since my sister did pass, I don't remember Gardner having another one of those in 20 some odd years. It's been a long time since they've had one. So please just be safe and be mindful of it. It's your decision when you get behind the wheel of the vehicle. And when you are behind the wheel of the vehicle, you are in control of it. So just be mindful of what you're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
To reinforce what Matt just said, that road almost took out one of my children, but 3 of them were in the car. 2 of them were injured. One of them has been living a life of pain ever since. Major surgeries and another major surgery this year, and she's turning 40. It's very difficult, so I can relate, and I reinforce what he said. And then I just wanted to repeat something. I misquoted Mr. Chow last time I spoke because I was a little intimidated. I asked him how to keep the residents of Baldwinville safe. What would he say to keep them safe? And he said, tell them. He didn't say remind them. Last month he said remind them. He said, tell them not to garden in the ground. And that's all I'm gonna say. I don't think we should be desensitized to the potential situation over there.
And don't trespass on the,
Yeah, don't
that
trespass.
was in that report.
But you can't tell that to animals either.
Thank you, Terry. I've got nothing further this evening. I will remind everybody, our next meeting is August 14th. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second. Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none on the motion to adjourn. Those who approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned